Welcome everybody back into Nerd Sesh. As always, I'm Carson Brever, and alongside me is Logan Camden. And after an electric championship Sunday, the Super Bowl is officially set. So of course, we're going to break down both of those games that we saw today. But Logan, we said coming into the NFC title game that in a lot of ways, that game might feel like the Super Bowl because we did think it was the two best teams in the NFL facing off in a real heavyweight bout for the third time this year. And boy, did that feel like the Super Bowl, man. Once again, an incredible game delivered to us by the Seahawks and the Rams. And it is Seattle that defends their home turf and advances with a 31-27 win. We cannot talk about this game without starting with Sam Darnold and the remarkable performance that he had. Specifically, when coming into this game, I didn't think it was going to be this high scoring. I was worried about Sam Darnold going up against the defense that has given him the most trouble in the NFL, and he went out there and played a hell of a game, Logan, in the biggest spot of his career. What do you have to say about his performance?
Yeah, I mean, he exercised some demons against LA today. The two games they played in the regular season, Darnold turned the ball over 6 times. Obviously, we all know that he had his season ended by Minnesota last year as well, and I thought he was just nails. Yeah, by the Rams when he was with Minnesota. Darnold goes for 346 yards today in 3 TDs. I mean, he was just excellent. I thought he was fearless in the pocket. I thought he dealt with pressure better than I've ever seen Darnold play within a big spot. I mean, that's the real difference to me from the Sam Darnold that was inexperienced and young in New York, that was floundering a little bit in Carolina, that was uncomfortable last year, even though it was the best season of his career in the playoffs against Los Angeles. Darnold was poised. He was ready. He was accurate. He was on time. Like, that might be the best game I've ever seen Darnold play. Like, considering the stakes of the moment and the stakes of the game, again, considering his track record against this team, that's a mental battle. You know what I mean? As much as it is him actually going out there and performing against LA, like, they've had his number, and Darnold answered today. I thought he was the best player on the field for Seattle. We can't sing Seattle's praises without also singing the praises of this defense, but we'll get to that in a second. But I thought, yeah, man, this might have been the best game I've seen Darnold ever play.
Yeah, I think it has to be when you consider stakes, when you consider the opponent. Not that the Rams have been an elite defense, but the specific concoction of what they have with the interior pressure they've been able to get, with the overall pass rush they have, with some of the stunts that they've thrown Seattle's way. Like, it had been brutal for him in his last 3 matchups against this team. Now, he rallied in the second half of week 16, but as you mentioned, 6 turnovers in the 2 games. They had really had his number, and he was just flat out excellent. This was an elite quarterback duel. It was definitely the best quarterback duel we've gotten in these playoffs so far. First game in the playoffs since 2021, Mahomes-Allen, the greatest quarterback duel in NFL history, in which both QBs have gone for 300-plus passing yards, 3-plus passing touchdowns, no interceptions, and Darnold and Stafford both cleared it by a lot today. But as good as Stafford was, Darnold made more key plays in this game. If you look at third down execution, if you look at some of the throws he made in the red zone, like, my goodness, dude, all 3 of his touchdown passes are under pressure, a couple of them off his back foot, just big time throws in the absolute biggest spots. Seattle went 7 of 13 on third down in this one. The Rams went 1 of 8. So it really came down to the Seahawks winning the key downs, and I credit their defense absolutely for excelling on those key downs on the other side of the ball. But the Seahawks had to put up 31 points to win this game, man. Like, if you told me that was the formula, I would have been a little bit nervous. There was a very high burden on Sam Darnold, and he was just sensational. And that goes all the way down to the final drive because, okay, you've put up 31 points, but now you have to eat enough clock to essentially take away the opportunity for the Rams to have that final drive, for that super potent offense, the best in the NFL, to have one last chance at it. They kept putting the ball in Darnold's hands. I mean, shout out to Clint Kubiak, dude, for a ballsy game that he called, but several instances, even down to the final third down where he ends up getting sacked by the unblocked pass rusher. That one obviously didn't work out, but every previous one did. Through the air, the Seahawks converted 4 first downs on that final drive, including the holding penalty that they draw, which was also, I think, in part due to the fact that it caught the Rams defense off guard. I don't think they were expecting a play action pass there, but the biggest of them all, that third down conversion to Cooper Kupp, who obviously makes a great play extending after the catch, just fighting for that last yard. But man, that is big time stuff to not just play that well throughout the game, but in the biggest moments to have that level of faith from your coaching staff and execute and justify that. It's really one of the best redemption arc stories in NFL history. I don't think that's an exaggeration. Like, we all remember the seeing ghosts quote and everything that Darnold went through with the Jets. And then it has just been continued improvement ever since then, right? We saw it a bit in Carolina. I think he definitely benefited from his year in San Francisco. And last year was a really good season for him in Minnesota, but it ended on a really sour note. This was another really good season for him. I mean, halfway through the year, he was like in MVP conversations. Then more turnover problems down the stretch, wasn't handling pressure as well. This has been the nightmare matchup for him, and it was a dream performance. So absolutely, we have to start with Darnold. I want to get to the defense too, but I do have to say, maybe I'm nitpicking here. You said you thought Darnold was the best player for the Seahawks today offensively. Fair enough. That being said, JSN, man, unbelievable performance from him in the wide receiver duel of the year. We can say that too, between the two guys who have been the most productive at the position. He comes up with 153 yards and a touchdown. And specifically in the key moments, he was absolutely excellent. In a one-score game, the Seahawks are able to steal points basically. At the end of the first half, they put together a touchdown drive in 34 seconds. So they go into the half with a lead, 66 yards from JSN on that drive at the end of the half. And then on the final drive, he has a huge second down pickup where he runs a great route. The guy is just unbelievable. And I often praise Puka Nacua for being, in my opinion, the most versatile receiver in the NFL right now. JSN is probably number 2. And in terms of just the ability to line him up anywhere in the slot, outside, line him up out of the backfield. He made a couple plays in this game. He was just completely sensational. They needed him to be exceptional, and he was. And Darnold got him the ball in all the key spots, and it was just really the performance of the year from this offense, even better than when they put up 38 in the Week 16 matchup between these two teams, just because they did this all in regulation. They didn't have the punt return touchdown that they had in that game. This was really incredible stuff from Darnold and JSN both.
It really was. When you're talking about some of those big redemption arc stories, it's reminiscent of me to a guy like Jim Plunkett, because I think when you think about like redemption stories, the first guy that you might think of or best stories in football from a quarterback is like a Kurt Warner. But the distinction between a guy like Kurt and Darnold is that Darnold was a top 3 pick, was kind of sold down the river. This guy's a bust. We don't know if he's a starter in the league. And it's a huge comeback story. Like, Plunkett was a guy who was different in the sense that he was a number 1 overall pick, but also sold off, went from New England, was a backup in San Francisco, and then went out to the Raiders and won 2 Super Bowls there. Like, it really is, man. It's super uncommon. Like, I think it's a reason why you shouldn't be so quick to judge like quarterbacks that don't have a ton of experience, man. It's hard. Like, sometimes it takes, 4 years, 5 years of like hitting the wall and like figuring stuff out. Like, I was a victim of this, I'd say, with a guy like Daniel Jones. I think Darnold is better, but like, he's a guy that I completely sold out on. And it also emphasizes the point that situation is very important in the NFL, man. We always harp on this point, Carson, with the quarterback attribution issues across the NFL, but 53 guys are on a roster every single game. You have an entire coaching staff and organization behind you. And I think that those are 2 components that have helped Sam along the way, but he just really has improved from where he was as a young quarterback. The JSN point, I think JSN's been the best receiver in football all year. I know you and I have disagreed. You've been a Puka guy, and Puka has a great game in this one too. I've been a JSN guy. Specifically, though, the key dynamic that I picked on coming into this game and that what ultimately tipped the scale in favor of Seattle for me was the difference in JSN and the Seattle receivers versus this Rams secondary instead of vice versa. That is where I thought Seattle matched up a little bit better than the Rams did with Seattle. And I thought that made the difference in this game. JSN making some big plays, but also the Rams secondary coming up in big spots. And really, I don't want to say they allowed 20 points in this game, but I mean, they really are one unsportsmanlike conduct penalty away from maybe holding the Rams to 20 points. Obviously, that maybe has some ripple effects and changes what they do later in this game. Maybe they end up putting up 23 instead. But I thought it was an excellent performance from the Seattle secondary as well. Maybe not, the Rams still were able to move the ball, but I thought in all the big crucial spots, they came up big and had some really big pass breakups. And that was one of the big dynamics that won Seattle this football game.
Yeah, I thought that their coverage on those consecutive 3rd and 4th down plays, when you look at that really pivotal sequence where Seattle has to go after this and finish the game by eating up all the clock they did on offense, but 27-31 wasn't the game, but it was about as big as any 2-play sequence can get. And the Seattle defense stood tall. They were able to move Stafford off his spot. They were able to blanket Devontae Adams in the red zone, which almost nobody is able to do, and force a really tough kind of sidearm throw to a well-covered receiver on 3rd down. And then the very next play, they're just all over everything, and Stafford nearly throws an interception. I thought Stafford was great in this game, absolutely. And I thought even he did some more improvising than we've seen from him, like really all year. The guy picked up a massive 4th down with his legs with the scramble, and then a couple plays later,
shook off DeMarcus Lawrence, man. That was nuts.
Broke a tackle that was incredible. One of the most shocking plays of the year. And then a couple plays later, same drive, he's feeling himself so much, he's like threatening the scramble, and then he pitches it out to Puka, just like total creative football. Felt like he saved his absolute best for when they needed it most. So I do give him so much praise, but at the end of the day, this incredibly dominant defense did step up in a couple of those really big spots, getting a red zone stand there, getting off the field on 3rd down. Like you said, they end up not getting off the field after getting 1 3rd down stop, and that was a huge moment in this game. That was a pivotal mistake by Seattle that they were able to overcome. Reek Woolen makes a great play, and then the very next play, after costing his team with a 15-yard penalty, he gets burnt by Puka for a touchdown. Very similar just in terms of both these teams being able to immediately capitalize on like the mistake of the game by the opposition to Xavier Smith, the return man for the Rams, muffing the fumble. Very next play, the Seahawks cashed in on that sequence with a touchdown. It was a really, really well played, really high quality game. There were so few mistakes made, and a couple of mistakes that were made, the other team immediately punished them for. That's where you just can't sing the praises of these two teams enough. Like, it's hard for me to look at anything with the Rams and say, this is really where you fell short. It more so felt like you knew what you were going up against in the Seahawks defense. You had one of the best games against them anybody's had all season. I mean, they end up with 27 points in this game. They end up with 26 first downs, 479 yards of offense. That's the second most total yardage anybody's put up on Seattle all year. That's the third most total points. Like, they had a really good offensive game, but when the Seattle offense plays this well, I just don't know how you beat this team, right? If Darnold was consistently playing like this, there would just be no question who the best team in the NFL was. And I do think Seattle's the best team in the NFL. And I said that even coming into this game, but I picked the Rams by the narrowest of margins because I was worried about Darnold against this pass rush, against this defense, and he absolutely aced that test. I do want to give credit to one other Seahawk particularly. I thought Kenneth Walker just made some huge plays in this game, and he wasn't super efficient on the ground, but the yards after contact, and specifically the yards after the catch in the passing game, 111 total yards out of him. I believe maybe he racked up a couple more even at the end, but really in the receiving game, I mean, he has a huge second down pickup on that final drive where he's just shaking dudes. He is one of the shiftiest, twitchiest running backs in the NFL, and it really was a collective effort, dude. Like, JSN obviously carries so much for this team. Nobody has had a bigger share in terms of their team's receiving volume in the NFL, but Shaheed coming up with that 50-plus yard completion on the early touchdown drive. And then Cooper Kupp, it's not a game that is going to jump off the screen at you on the box score, but I mean, his touchdown was massive. He makes a great play after the catch there. And then the third down pickup on the final drive, the touchdown catch by Bobo, like, Stafford obviously leaned on his A-plus number one receiver, but he was also able to spread the ball around and pretty much trust everybody to make a big play. So just the ultimate testament to the collective strength of this Seahawks team, a team that has been so impressive, so dominant. Again, 14-3 this year with one of the 5 toughest schedules in football, like one of the best defenses we've seen this century. And when the offense shows up like this, they're just an absolute juggernaut. And the Rams got the best the Seahawks had to offer in this one. And I don't think anybody's beaten the Seahawks when they give you the best they have to offer.
I completely agree. They go 2 of 10 on 3rd and 4th down. I mean, I think that makes a difference in this football game. It was ironic, I do mention the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Reek Woolen earlier. That sequence was crazy just because Reek goes from like the hero of the day in Seattle is literally in the driver's seat of this game. Like you would be up 2 possessions, 11 points. Like, I mean, you're coasting the rest of this way. And then like Reek had the PBU and the Brady and fucking Burkhart were shitting on him for not catching the interception. I thought it was a great job of Puka to break that ball up out of his hands as well, which he's been kind of doing all year long.
This is what I'm saying. I'm sure there would be people who say, oh, JSN clearly established himself as best receiver in the NFL this year. He's amazing. Puka had 165 yards and a touchdown today, and he's playing defense out there. He's a top-tier DB. One real fun, quick stat before you get back to the taunting sequence, because I'm interested in your thoughts on that. But I mentioned the quarterback duel stat. This is also the first time in which a receiver on both teams have gone for 150-plus yards and a touchdown each since Logan that same game in 2021. That time it was Tyreek Hill and, of course, Gabe Davis with the most magical game of his career. Did you think that was the right call? Did you think that taunting was warranted? Or is that a call that you want to see in that moment?
Hell no, it was weak.
Yeah.
I mean, like, dude, Reek shut his ass down and then started talking shit. Like, I don't know, man. I used to be a guy that shit talked all the time, and I retired from it. I get it in the heat of the moment. I don't talk shit anymore, but like, yeah, bro, he just put his team up 2 possessions. That's a huge momentum swing and play. Like, let him flap his gums. And then, I will say, to the Rams' credit, I thought they made the exact right decision. Like, you get that kind of opportunity, go for the jugular, right? I mean, they send a shot immediately to the end zone, and not just to the end zone. They target Reek because they know he's probably in his own head, beating himself up about it, and it immediately pays dividends. But ironically, even though that happens, I kind of thought it balanced out the error that Xavier Smith made earlier in this game that set up the Bobo touchdown. So I was like, well, shit, even if you disagree, it's kind of just a wash, like, for both of those sequences. And then, they played even the rest of the way. What did you think about it? I thought it was a weak call, man. I'm pro letting guys talk shit.
I hate it. I am radically anti-taunting in the NFL. I am radically anti-tech in the NBA. To me, if it's just words just don't mean that much. Like, I think if you're going by the rule book, yeah, sure, that's a justified taunting penalty, but is that worth impacting these teams' seasons? Like, sports are highly emotional, okay? This is a full speed, full contact sport. These guys are hitting each other 100 miles an hour all game. You are in an incredibly tense, incredibly important moment, maybe the biggest moment of your life, and you make a hell of a play. I just don't think any words that you're going to say are significant enough, are consequential enough, are hurtful enough, like where it's like, okay, that is a drive extending call. And yeah, they get a touchdown the very next play. Like, if the Seahawks had lost, that would have been the play. That would have been the moment, the call every single one of us look back at. So you can say, hey, Reek, keep your composure, right? You have to understand the circumstances and just don't get too worked up. But I just feel like if somebody makes a big play and then they say something disrespectful, you know what your course of action is as a player on the other team? Get them back, make a big play in response, say something back. And like, yeah, it's the savvy thing to do. All the Rams sideline and Tay, they were all on it. They were like, he's taunting. And I don't know if the ref would have thrown the flag if they hadn't put that pressure on him, but I just don't think it should impact the game that much. So I understand, I guess, if you're like, hey, that's disrespectful. But I don't know. I just don't think like the idea that we should be holding these guys to this kind of absurd standard of being like spotless ambassadors of the game and perfect gentlemen all the time. It's like, that's just not realistic in sports, dude. This shit is personal. This shit is hugely important. This shit is physical. It's violent. Like, it's as intense as it gets.
And this is the third meeting between two division rivals in a game that is going to send somebody to the Super Bowl. And
he just won one-on-one against one of the best players in the NFL in the biggest moment of the season up to that point.
And what I don't get is like, we see guys do this all the time where there's actually something physical that goes down. Like, if Woolen had ran up and smacked somebody across the head, all right. Like, I get it. But I agree with you, man. I don't know what he possibly could have said that was so heinous that the ref is like, oh, good heavens, I have to throw my flag. Like,
he's clutching his pearls.
I can't. It was weak. It was soft, man. I'm with you, bro. I'm anti. Like, you really gotta put football's a physical ass sport, man, and we getting hurt over words.
Yeah. I don't even know what the words were. None of us know. I mean, from the look of it, it's just, that interaction went on a little long. Okay, you shouldn't be jawing at the sideline, but I would always be like, if I'm the ref, you know what I'm saying there? I'm saying, hey, Reek, cool it. Reek, chill. I'm not picking my flag out of my belt immediately and saying, oh, yeah, let me change the course of the most important game of the season up to this point. That's how I would handle it. I'm sure refs see it differently, but I am pretty radical in my position in terms of just not wanting refs to be that involved in the outcome of the game. It's already enough with all of the tough calls they have to make on the field. Once you start getting into legislating personalities to that extent, I don't like it. There is another moment that I look at in this game, Logan, that's probably gone a little bit more under the radar as being a key sequence, and I would even call it an error. I think McVay should have gone for 2 at 26-31, end of the third quarter. He's probably thinking, okay, at this point, we're trading blows. That was the 4th consecutive touchdown drive, so I imagine his mindset was, we're going to have more chances later in the game to go for it, but I just don't think you can ever take that for granted, especially against this defense. And that was also the second touchdown they scored that quarter. Both times you're down 4. Once you start getting down to the 15 minutes that are going to decide your season, you would much rather be down 3 than down 4. And this ends up being obviously super impactful because the Rams are sitting there 27-31. A field goal does effectively nothing for them. They need a touchdown in that moment. Had they gone for 2 and gotten it, okay. Now we just need a field goal to tie the game. Had they gone for 2 and not gotten it, they'd effectively be in the exact same spot of, okay, we just need to go for it. But you need the opportunity to be within a field goal there, in my opinion. And I did think that was a mistake by McVay. I think he's a brilliant coach, but that was a moment that I think they will look back at. Overall, what an incredible matchup. What an incredible rivalry. I feel like I can pretty confidently say, Logan, that we've never seen 3 better games between 2 teams in one season. I mean, 2 games decided by 2 and 1 points respectively in the regular season, and then a 1-score shootout humdinger, but a great defensive matchup too, even though a lot of points were put up. You knew that both teams were capable of making big plays defensively, especially the Seahawks, of course. Is there anyone that comes to your mind that would be better?
Yeah, I mean, my immediate thought is always to the classic. I'm a Steelers fan. I'm going to think of Steelers-Ravens 08. That's a good shout, though. I mean, especially considering how that second game ended. I mean, that second game alone is one of the craziest I think I've ever watched in my life. And then this one was a barn burner too. It's a good take. I'm gonna rack my brain for a minute and see if anything comes to mind.
Dude, it was 60 minutes each time of incredibly engaging, high-quality football. The first game was a little bit uglier, right, because Darnold really struggled, but you also felt like, oh, my God, the Seahawks defense is doing incredible work to keep them in this game. The Rams defense is playing their asses off, and we got just this wonderful variety of outcomes, too, where we had, total defensive battle in the first meeting, more of a total shootout, you would say, in the second game, although obviously Seattle's defense got some huge stops in this one, and this one was more similar to the second, higher scoring, really decided by the high-level quarterback play. Shout out to Matt Stafford, dude, because at 37 years old to go out there and leave your season with a performance like this, I'd been critical of him over the last couple weeks. I thought we had seen his issues under pressure and just some of his physical limitations at this age, right? His inability to evade pass rushers and issues with accuracy when he is moved off his spots, when he is on the move at all. I thought it was the best game he's played in terms of like actually doing some of that physical stuff. Like he only got sacked once in this game, right? He actually evaded a couple pass rushers. It was a really damn good performance. And then he was doing everything within structure. Like that final drive at 27-31, so close to being a signature surgical veteran, like take what's there, keep moving the ball down the field. A lot of checkdowns, but like it's what you had to do on that drive. Just so poised. Could have been the signature moment of his season. And he's had some great clutch drives. But again, ends up that the best defense in the NFL, arguably, was better than the best offense in the NFL in that biggest of moments. But shout out to Stafford, because this was a very, very worthy performance for him to go out on.
Yeah, and I was just going to mention too, like a play that doesn't go LA's way, the Parkinson drop.
Right.
That's
And
a
then
big deal
Stafford
too.
had to go Josh Allen on him and pick up the fourth down with his legs.
Yeah, like that could have been crucial. That's maybe I don't know if it's a walk-in TD because he's going to meet a safety right at the point, but like
Yeah, it's a big game.
That could have ended up being a pretty big deal. But I don't have anything really negative to say about Stafford. Again, I think that if I was going to point my finger, it would be probably mostly at the Rams secondary, where I just thought they were a little bit outmatched today.
Yeah, and we knew that was the vulnerability of this team. It's really tough. JSN is as hard to cover as anybody in the NFL, but I agree. I mean, that's a matchup advantage the Seahawks had, and they were able to take advantage of it. I did think the Rams receivers and tight ends, I mean, Parkinson, he had that drop, but he did have a pretty good game overall, really played well in their own right. I feel for Devontae Adams. This was such an excellent acquisition by the Rams, bringing him in, and he had such a great season and had a really good game as well. Just feel for a guy who's 33 and has been so great his whole career and has had some deep playoff runs and has a chance at a Super Bowl, and obviously ends up falling short because he is now tied for the most playoff touchdowns by a receiver without a Super Bowl. He's got the second most receiving yards in the playoffs by a receiver without a Super Bowl, only trailing the tortured Andre Reed. So hope to see him and the Rams back in a deep run next year. You think
What's his stat?
They probably will be. He's got the second most receiving yards in the playoffs by a player not to win a Super Bowl, and he has the tied for the most receiving touchdowns.
Does he have even more than? I mean, I know he wasn't there that often. Does he have more than Larry Fitzgerald?
He does.
Wow, that's
In
crazy.
Playoffs, he does. Yeah. Shout out to Tay, man. What a legend. What a GOAT. That 2-play sequence he had where he just had that ridiculous release and got them down to the 1, and then the very next play, of course, they went right back to him, and he immediately won again because he's a top 5 red zone receiver ever. Phenomenal stuff. As we look at the Rams, though, Logan, this is a team that I picked to win the Super Bowl, that I had as my number 1 contender for quite some time this year. They are just on the brink, but they fall short. What are they looking to accomplish this offseason from your perspective?
Reload. I mean, I think you got too much infrastructure in place. I don't know what key guys are coming up for them on free agency, but like you're an older roster, but you're very offensively slanted in how your salary is allocated with this team. Like it's a very young, improving defense. I wouldn't put it past them. Some of these other young guys continuing to get better and better. I would say corner is my number 1 priority with the Rams, unequivocally. Maybe safety. I like their safeties more than I like their corners, but defensive backs in general are the big spot for me, and then maybe another linebacker. But I think this is a ferocious defensive front. I mean, you saw them just blow play after play up at certain moments in this game where they're getting in the backfield instantly. The Rams aren't far away. They're one of the most talented teams in football. You just got to hope that Stafford doesn't like fall off a cliff. I'm going to keep it a stack. The guy's not super mobile anyway. I don't know how much really less mobile the guy can get. I don't know if his arm is going to suffer anything like big. I still think that there's a really, really big chance that he's still a top 8, top 7 kind of QB in football. I think they've got great infrastructure. I think that try to bring the coordinators back. You improve the defensive backs. I think they should be in the playoffs and potentially competing right back here again in the playoffs next year. I mean, they have a super tough division, but I think the Rams would be one of my favorites. Obviously, the draft changes the landscape and free agency does every year, but
yeah,
I could confidently say I think the Rams are going to be one of my favorites to be right back here next year.
Yeah, they are in a pretty good spot where, like, most of the really highly played elite offensive players who they have are still like securely under contract. And then defensively, they've just got so many great young guys still who are on rookie contracts. They are in as good a position as anybody to run it back and be top tier contenders again next year, presuming that Stafford can keep up this level. And he was fantastic this year. And like, I don't think he's going to lose anything more in terms of mobility, or at least anything significant, right? He's already lost a lot there and was still a top 7 quarterback this year, probably going to be the MVP.
We not that we brushed over it. Man, dude, that scramble. I know it was like 3 yards, man. Like it wasn't insane. This shit did kind of give me chills, like Elway, man. Like him getting out there, like it got me excited. That's some old man grit. Like trying to put the team on his back, man. Stafford's a tough SOB, man.
He is, dude. That was a maximum dog performance. Sadly, Bomani Jones thinks that he's a fraud and he doesn't belong in the Hall of Fame because his team lost to a great team. Now, did you see he had that take? I mentioned it on the show the other day. The take was that if Stafford doesn't win the Super Bowl with this stacked team, with this path, then we can't even talk about him in the Hall of Fame. It was a ridiculous take. But Stafford held up his end of the bargain in this one.
Hall of Fame resumes come down to one game. Man, I used to really like Bomani too.
Well, it's also just disrespectful to the Seahawks because it's like if you give it your best shot and you play a good game and you fall just short against Seattle, like Seattle's proven themselves to be overall the best team in the NFL. They've been the most dominant team in the NFL for an extended stretch of this season. So it's a silly take for sure. But I do look at this Rams team and I'm like, next year and even the year after, I mean, a lot of these defensive guys are still going to be on their rookie contracts. That's really the window. Obviously, I don't know how long you can expect Stafford to play at a high level. Devontae's only through contract through next year. So like maybe they start to lose a little something after next offseason, but I agree with you. I think just a couple touch-ups in that secondary, specifically looking at corner. I really like the defensive front. I think both interior defensive line and edge, they've just got so many talented guys. They could be a little bit sturdier against the run, but that pass rush is as good as it gets. Again, really not many notes for the Rams. I think it's a great season. I think they're a great team. This was going to be a matchup decided on the margins, and that's exactly what it was. It comes down to a muffed punt, a 4th down stop, Seattle winning the key downs. It was always going to be that way. And Sammy D and the boys came through. Shout out to Mike McDonald for one of the great coaching jobs that we've seen in a while in this league. And just what a team accomplishment by Seattle. We're going to take a quick break for some words from Prize Picks. On the other side, we will talk about a game that was not nearly as thrilling, not nearly as high quality, but nevertheless delivered us a team that is going to be facing Seattle in the Super Bowl. Now a rematch in terms of the franchises of one of the great Super Bowls in NFL history, although all of the parts have been changed. We will talk about that AFC title game after this. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than Prize Picks, where it always feels good to be right. And since the big game is right around the corner, that also means it's your last chance to get into the football action before next season. So close the season out right with Prize Picks by getting $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5.
With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups from winners with a single click. Copy lineups you like or use them as inspiration for your own picks. And with Prize Picks, I don't have to wait until next year's draft to keep playing fantasy. Prize Picks lets you play fantasy football every week, even in the playoffs. Pick your favorite players and win when they hit their projections every week, no draft required.
Download the Prize Picks app today and use code NERDSESH to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code NERDSESH to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks. It's good to be right. Logan, the New England Patriots beat the Denver Broncos 10-7, facing, of course, a backup quarterback, Jarrett Stidham, dealing with some incredibly nasty, snowy conditions in the last quarter and a half of this game that escalated very, very quickly. You look at this win from New England. How did they get it done in such a nasty, grimy kind of game?
They were just better situationally. I thought New England understood the stakes in the situation a little bit better in this game, and I thought the big key for them, obviously, it's the defense holding Denver to 7 points. That's the big thing. I thought offensively, Drake May's legs were the I don't know, maybe the most effective offensive component for either of these teams. Like, it kind of feels strange to say that, but like outside of
Gotta
a
be
50,
something.
yeah, outside of a 54-yard bomb to, I think it was Marvin Mims early in this game, like there were very little other exciting plays. It was Maye's ability to extend enough drives and to really extend that one drive at the beginning of the second half to keep the ball out of Denver's hands. And then New England forcing really Jarrett Stidham into just the two mistakes that hand them this football game. The New England offense manufactured like almost 3 points by themselves. And I get that both of these teams miss long field goals. But again, in these conditions, those weren't guarantees. That's why they missed.
Not at all.
The only touchdown they get from this game was the Bo Nix, the Jarrett Stidham fumble. Bo Nix wouldn't have fumbled that ball. Bo Nix
You put Bo Nix on this team. You put Bo Nix on this team.
They win.
They win.
They go to the Super Bowl. They're the Super Bowl favorite. That's what I've been saying. Shout out Supernova. Yeah, I mean, it's really those two plays, and it's kind of insane to say that, but basically every other drive in this game was like a 3-and-out or a 4-and-out, and it was a punt. I mean, late in this game, both of these teams are just trading punts going, well, we can't move the ball. Let's see if you can. You know, we're just going to restart you back at – I mean, dude, one of the last drives in this game, Denver starts at like the New England 30, and they miss a field goal. Like, it is literally –
the 33.
It's literally, hey, let's see you score. Let's see you actually put one through the uprights or get in the end zone. And it was just impossibly tough in these conditions. It really is those two mistakes by Stidham that I thought made the difference in this game. And unfortunately, Sean Payton's decision to not kick the field goal early on in this game. That one, maybe some people would say AFC title game, big moment. This is a big swing play. And I understand that argument. I am very situationally dependent. And I didn't like that decision. I thought it was going to be a defensive-minded, grimy kind of game, and you have a backup quarterback that just drove you. I think that was like a 6-minute drive. The worst-case scenario is Stidham, they move the ball so well. R.J. Harvey's making plays, and you don't come away with any points at that point in the game. Obviously, you would have needed the weather radar to look at and go, oh, in 2 quarters, nobody's going to be able to move the ball at all, right? Like, of course, hindsight is 20/20, but I did disagree with that. I thought it was really those 3 plays that made the biggest difference in this game.
I think it's fair to criticize Peyton's decision to go there. However, I do think, as you said, hindsight is 20/20. I was okay with that process in the moment. And if we're distributing blame, if we look at a couple key moments, it's like 98% on Stidham gifting the other team a touchdown in a game where they produced 3 points otherwise, and 2% on Peyton leaving 3 points on the board. Because if Stidham doesn't make that mistake, just like flat out, the Broncos could have won this game scoring 7 points. They would have won this game scoring 7 points.
It's very possible. I want to talk about that play for a second.
Yes.
Yo, fuck Gene Steratore, bro. Like, actually.
One of the craziest switch-ups, and yet one of the most predictable switch-ups.
This is what I've been saying about the refs all year long, and it's like, bro, you can't have it both ways, bro. I saw that play on the field, and I said, that's a fumble recovered by New England for a touchdown, and the key difference was the fact that Stidham is clearly going forward with his arm, retucks it, and then goes, oh, shit, I'm about to get swallowed, and tries to get rid of it. That's not a throwing motion at all. But the thing that really frustrated me about that is the fact that Steratore goes, nah, the refs got it right on the field. The refs got it right. That's a forward pass.
Yeah.
And then the second they go, oh no, it's a fumble recovered by New England, he goes, oh yeah, the refs got it right. See, this is it fucking double standard bullshit. Gene, like I don't like Tony Romo. I rarely like a Tony Romo game. Respect to Tony Romo for objectively looking at what happened with his eyes and being honest with the audience. Like, Gene, every time you do that, you burn. You don't have any credibility with me because I've never liked you, Gene. I've never liked Dean Blandino, any of you ref motherfuckers. All
zebras. Call them zebras. That's a slur.
They just always agree with the refs on the field no matter what. Fuck you guys.
No, I agree. Like, it's essentially a useless expert position if you aren't willing to actually offer your critical analysis of what happened. If you are either too cowardly to contradict the call on the field because, I don't know, it's tough, it's ambiguous, whatever, or if it is just like the default position of, hey, I'm an ex-ref, I've worked with these refs stay together, we got to advocate for each other, that's the right call. Like, when you try to say on both sides of it, that was the right call, you look absolutely ridiculous and you're not providing any value. So it's like the biggest cliche criticism of these ref analysts. Like, they just always advocate for the call on the field, even when like sometimes it's clearly not the right call. I don't know. Sometimes they will contradict the call in the field. Sometimes they will say, hey, that was not the right call there. But I agree. That was a bad look. And I just wish that we could find fully unbiased officiating experts who like don't have relationships with the league previously or other officials. Cause it's like, if you were going to bring me in to analyze Logan's podcast performance, I'm not the guy to do that. I love Logan. Like, I'm going to be too cuddly and too gentle probably. And I'm going to say, yeah, he did a bang up job, even if maybe he didn't that episode. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So I agree with you there. However, you know what my problem with that play was, Logan? It's one of the dumbest fucking plays I've seen in my life. Like, Jarrett Stidham just made in that moment, considering the situation, one of the worst plays I've ever seen, because it's not just a fumble inside your own 12-yard line that gives the other team their only touchdown of the day in a game that they ultimately won 10-7, right? Points were exceedingly difficult to come by. You gift wrapped them 7. That is horrible. That cost you the game on its own. What makes it even worse, though, is that there was no reason for him to try to throw that ball away, Logan. That is horrifically bad situational awareness from a quarterback. It showed that he hasn't played a football game in 2+ years, because that's third down. It's going to be fourth down inside your own 20, whether you take the sack or whether you throw it away. It doesn't matter. So why the hell would you risk it? You're not fighting for field position. You're not fighting to extend to see another down. Like, no, you're punting the football either way. It's just the most obvious instance of a backup quarterback costing you a game that there could be. Because, like, Stidham is bad. Stidham was bad all game outside of that first drive in a number of different ways. But like, when the bar for what he had to do was so exceedingly low, it was not throw the game away by doing the dumbest thing you possibly could. He threw the game away by doing the dumbest thing he possibly could. That was unbelievably stupid and awful. And by the way, explicitly coming into this game, we said, this is going to be nasty. This is going to be defensive. Both sides, your job is lean on your defense. Don't be the guy who makes the back-breaking mistake, who gifts the other team points. That's exactly what he did. So it's honestly hard for me to even say much else about where the Broncos lost this game, where the Broncos offense went wrong. I actually thought Peyton called a pretty good game. I thought he had some creative stuff in his bag. And early I thought, okay, maybe he can elevate Stidham to be competent enough, but they still struggled to run the ball. Not getting Dobbins back, that's brutal. He totally changed their run game this year. And they had 1 or 2 drops, but like, it was really just Stidham being bad and making the most disastrous play he possibly could have. And it turns out it really sucks to have a backup quarterback in the AFC title game when your offense has already had plenty of issues and you're going up against a defense that is on fire. And when you do need a final drive, you're like, yeah, there's literally not a chance in hell that Stidham is going to drive them down the field. And not just that, he throws a pick directly to Christian Gonzalez to end this game. He was extremely shaky in the pocket all day. Takes the deepest drops I've seen in my life, Logan. He's damn near sprinting backwards in the pocket, like just erratic and a little panicky and under pressure. 1 of 10 with 4 yards and 2 turnovers.
Yeah, bro.
Like, you can't win a game with that quarterback. You cannot win a game with that quarterback.
Bro, it was so funny to me too, man, listening to like Romo and Nance try to hype him up. And I'm just like guys,
he's made of the right stuff. He's made of the right stuff. Okay, well, Tony, he sucks. I believe that he's a good guy. He's terrible. And everybody's going to make this game about the weather until the end of time. Bro. I know how the human memory works, okay, and it's incredibly fallible. And we are not really capable years from now of having the nuance to look at a game that was this ugly offensively and in which there was such like memorably brutal weather conditions at the end.
That's what I'm going to remember about both of these last 2 Patriots games, man.
That's what I'm saying, Logan. That's what I'm saying. And that's the problem. People are going to look at this game and they're going to say, oh, yeah, remember how crazy snowy that game was? It was impossible to play offense in those conditions. 2.5 quarters of this football game, perfect conditions, perfect. No snow, no factor there whatsoever. And
Straight
the offenses
booty.
were still
Straight
absolutely
booty.
horrible, absolutely horrible. So I will be advocating for the reality, because I know it's going to get suppressed and people are going to just make this a weather game. And it's like, no, at the end, for sure, that shit was ridiculous. But these offenses were horrible for 4 quarters and the conditions were fine for 2.5 of them.
That's a great point. And I got the numbers actually for it, dude. Yeah. In New England stat padded on the final drive to make their numbers look more respectable. Like, going into the final drive, New England had 2.3 yards per play. And 3 and outs on 6 drives. They end the first half actually with 4 first downs, going 3 of 8 on third down, 72 total yards, 2.8 yards per play. Drake Maye gave us a great stat line of 7 of 14, 29 yards with 1.7 yards per pass. What a shitty offensive game, man. I mean, shout out to both of these defenses. I thought that the pressure Denver was able to get against this really young, youthful New England offensive line was impressive. If it was Cooper, if it was Benito, the guy they just called up, his name is escaping me, number 51, Quay, comes up with a big, I think Quay Johnson, I think that's his name. He came up with a big play. That was impressive to me from the Denver defense. I thought
Quay
Robinson, that's right. I thought that Surtain was excellent for the majority of this game. I mean, just like, that's where New England has built in some of this margin. And Brady was kind of hitting this with Darnold and Stafford, but he was saying Stafford is a guy that's more surgical, right? And he was saying that Darnold's a little bit more explosive. And that's kind of how the Patriots' offensive attack has been. They may not be the most methodical, but Drake Maye is so good at hitting on these deep shots. And that element of the Patriots' offense was completely eliminated today. And then defensively for the Patriots, I thought outside of one blown coverage from Christian Gonzalez, they were pretty elite. And Barmore and Milton Williams, Gonzalez makes up for it with the pick at the end. I thought the stars of the show were Milton Williams and Barmore, though, just blowing stuff up at the line of scrimmage consistently.
Yeah. Well, and when you look at that pivotal 4th down, I mean, that play never had a chance. It was just immediate interior pressure, and Stidham's not going to do anything there. So, yeah, coming back to that decision, that one moment, I thought it was a fine call at the time. Obviously, you can look back and say, okay, we didn't score again in this football game. We should have taken the points. But at that moment, they'd been the better team. And yeah, you're thinking it's going to be a defensive battle, but nevertheless, you can go both ways with that, because it's like when you're in a defensive battle, you do still want to max out the points when you are deep in opponent territory, right? Because you're not really expecting to get back there.
The backup QB component is what overrides.
I get that decision. Against a really good defense. Yeah. I get it. For me, it was pretty much a toss-up. I agree with you. That made me less inclined to go for it than if Bo was out there, or if I had a lot of confidence in the Broncos offense, right? If it's an elite offense, like I'm a 100% go there. Go for not the knockout, but it damn near would have felt like the knockout if New England went down 14-0 with how their offense played. So you can look back, you can be critical, but again, I think the reality is Sean Payton rocks. Sean Payton had a great year. Jarrett Stidham sucks.
You know, and I thought, all things considered, that's why I think Sean Payton is one of those guys that, like, you just want is your head coach. I mean, Stidham did not play a good game, but I thought I really like 2 things about their game plan, and obviously it doesn't actually lead to anything. I like the fact that Sean Payton kept throwing different formation looks at New England, just consistently switching up if they were going I form, if they were going single back, if they were going shotgun. In every single snap, he had pre-snap motion to at least let Stidham know, you know, where you're looking at zone, you're looking at man, just to give him a little edge. Like, I mean, I'll tell you as a Steelers fan, like watching Mike Tomlin and the Steelers offense be completely devoid of any of these elements, like, I thought that they did the best that they could. It's sad. They get 7 points. That is the best that they could do. But all things considered, I thought that Peyton and Davis Webb on short notice put together the best game plan that they could have for Jarrett Stidham.
And also, they're going up against the defense that has been dominant, man. Dominating some bad offenses, sure, but like this is the playoffs, and the Patriots defense has single-handedly carried them to the Super Bowl, Logan. Like we are truly looking at one of the all-time carry jobs by a defense to a Super Bowl here. So I want to give them a ton of credit, even considering the competition and considering that these conditions were more favorable to the defense. This has just been 3 straight games of absolute shutdown stuff. Offensively, they have the fewest points scored ever by a team to play 3 conference playoff games en route to the Super Bowl. The fewest points scored ever, the Patriots. But they have the 4th fewest points allowed by a team through their first 3 playoff games in NFL history. And you know the only 3 teams they're trailing, Logan? I actually bet you could probably guess them 1, 2, 3, because it's the 3 greatest playoff defensive performances in league history. It's the 85 Bears, 2000 Ravens, and the 86 Giants. How about that, man? That is a Mount Rushmore you really want to be on.
Company. Oh, yeah.
That is some incredible company. They have allowed 26 points in 3 football games. They're allowing 8.7 points per game.
You know, I meant to mention one more guy for that Pats defense. K'Lavon Chaisson has really impressed me every game in these playoffs.
I agree. And also, I think the entire secondary, like obviously Gonzo is the star. He even has a sack on a blitz in this game, but the totality of what they've got with the Cal Bears back there, Logan, Craig Woodson, and Jalen Hawkins, like the secondary is a real strength for this team. But top to bottom, they've just been so damn impressive. They're letting up 3.3 yards per play. 3.3, man, through 3 games against playoff teams. Opposing teams are 12 of 31 on third down, 2 of 8 in the red zone, and New England has 8 takeaways. The defense has scored a touchdown. They've gotten 12 sacks. Like, I understand this game, they're going up against Jarrett Stidham, and half the game was in crazy snow. Last week, they were going up against CJ Stroud, who was absolutely horrible in shitty conditions. The Chargers before that have the worst offensive line ever, and Herbert was also bad in that game. But they are in historic company right now defensively in these playoffs. And I think you give so much credit to Zach Kerr. The guy's unbelievable. Like, he is about to skyrocket up. He wasn't even their DC to start the season, of course, and has been one of the more impressive DCs in the NFL. He is at the very least going to get a full-time defensive coordinator job next year, I would hope and expect. But their ability to manufacture pressure, because again, they don't really have a good pass rushing front 4, but it's been these blitzes that have just absolutely ruined teams consistently. Really, all the credit for New England goes to that side of the ball because, Logan, as much as I love Drake Maye, he has been quite bad in these playoffs. Like, this guy was my MVP this regular season. He was incredible. I have been a huge advocate of his. I've said he had one of the best second-year quarterback seasons we've ever seen. I think he's going to be the best quarterback in the league someday. Like, I am extremely high on Drake Maye, super complimentary of the guy. I think he's an absolute superstar in the making and was already an elite quarterback this regular season. But through 3 playoff games, he has 584 total yards if you account for sack yardage lost. He's got a 55.8% completion rate, 84 passer rating, 6.9 yards per pass attempt, 5 touchdowns against 5 turnovers, and he had 3 more fumbles that weren't recovered by the defense. He's taken 15 sacks. Part of that is absolutely on the offensive line, but also I think that's the area where he needs to improve most. Obviously, taking care of the football when he does get hit, but he's just taking way too many sacks back there. And he's leading an offense that is averaging 15.7 offensive points per game in the playoffs, 4.35 yards per play. That's equivalent to the worst offense in the NFL this year, Logan. The Cleveland Browns converting 30% of their third downs. That would be the worst number in the NFL this year. Today, the guy had 65 net passing yards. The Patriots offense had 1 real scoring drive all day. Their lone touchdown was totally set up by that fumble recovery on the 12. Like, New England's offense has been brutal, period, point blank. People want to talk about conditions. Again, this team had totally clean conditions for 2.5 quarters. People want to talk about the defense he's facing. Okay, well, the Broncos defense just let up 30 points to the Bills last week, a Bills offense that squandered opportunities in that game. Like, those are factors in things looking this horrible, but it doesn't excuse the Patriots offense being this bad through 3 playoff games, especially because, yes, they have faced 3 really good defenses, 2 great defenses these last 2 weeks, and the offense around Drake isn't that talented. We know that. We've known that all year. That's a big part of the reason why I argued he was the MVP, because he was elevating a below average offensive line and just okay receivers and a fine run game. But again, the expectation for a player as good as Drake is that he elevates the group. And instead, he's taken a ton of sacks. He had a lot of dangerous, reckless moments in the first 2 games, repeatedly putting the ball in harm's way. And today, he made no plays through the air. He made a few with his legs. And like you said, that's been his strength in these playoffs. Like, he's leaned on that really consistently. And it's been his best stuff, but the offense was completely anemic. It's been anemic and deeply uninspiring through 3 games, and yet they're in the Super Bowl. So my point is not at all that Drake Maye isn't great, that Drake Maye can't play better next game in the Super Bowl, or especially that Drake Maye won't get better, because obviously he will. Like, it's incredible to have the season that he's had in his second year. My point here that I'm trying to really hammer home is, ironically, a quarterback who I think very highly of, who I think is flat out elite, has played quite clearly his worst 3-game stretch of the season in a 3-game stretch of the playoffs as his team has advanced to the Super Bowl. Once again, this should frame how we think about wins and losses for a quarterback, because it is the ultimate team sport. There is going to be somebody who comes out there with the take that now Drake Maye has proven something by making the Super Bowl, right? Or that he's done the little things, whatever it takes, right? People are going to scrounge up whatever rationale they can to say, oh, actually, this is the moment that Drake Maye has made it, which will be very, very ironic, because he was amazing in the regular season. He proved a ton in the regular season, already showed clearly he's an elite quarterback. Now he's been bad in the playoffs, but his team is still winning, and people can't separate a team winning from quarterback performance, even though he's getting historically dominant stuff from his defense in terms of what they're doing statistically in these playoffs while facing some very bad offenses, but they're totally carrying on that side of the ball. So props to Vrabel, props to Zach Kerr, and props to the defense for this Patriots run, because like, that's what it's all about, man.
Yeah, man, you put Bo Nix on this Patriots team and they win this game, you know? I hope people don't fall into that trap, but they likely will. The one thing that I would take home as a positive from these last 2 games.
Yeah.
You have seen Maye in probably the 2 most hellish circumstances, maybe in the rest of his playoff career, that he's ever going to have to be in. I mean, the caliber of defense that he's facing, he's already gone through 2 of the top 3. He's going to face the 3rd in the Super Bowl. And the second half was a torrential downpour of snow. The Houston game was just an actual torrential downpour of, you know, an insane amount of rain. Like, no, he has not played good football in either of those circumstances, but I don't know. Hopefully it has got him prepared at least for what he is going to endure in 2 weeks against the Seattle Seahawks. Like, he at least has faced similar caliber of competition. I get that he has not played well against.
Right. That's the thing.
He has looks against 2 of the top defenses in the league.
He does. It's an exceedingly difficult path of defenses that he's having to face, but it's also been an exceedingly flawed slate of offenses that his defense has been able to just completely dominate and carry them through against. Like, of course, there's context here, right? And also, what I very much hope does not happen is I really hope people don't look at Drake struggling in this 3-game slate and say, oh yeah, Drake's wildly overrated. Drake's not this, Drake's not that. When it's like, we saw him 17 games carry this team. Again, it is a small playoff sample size in which he's struggling, but it's also a small playoff sample size of his team winning that is probably going to lead to some people like greatly overrating what he has done in these 3 games. And you know me, man, I'm king context. I just think that stuff is always so important, and so often quarterback performances get misrepresented based solely off of team results. I do come back once again to the great Peyton Manning stat that I pulled up last week, I think, but I didn't have it all in front of me, so I will read them out aloud now. Peyton Manning, in his 2 Super Bowl runs, the 2 playoff runs in which his team won it all, averaged 224.7 yards per game. He had 5 touchdowns, 8 picks, 6.4 yards per attempt, 72.3 passer rating, 45.1% success rate. Really, really bad individual numbers, but a 7-0 record. In all his other playoff runs combined, 288.3 yards per game, 35 touchdowns against 17 picks, 7.4 yards per attempt, 92 passer rating, 51.3% success rate. Pretty good numbers. Pretty damn good. 7-13 record, because the difference is in the Super Bowl runs, his defense allowed 10 points per game fewer than they did in all the other runs. So we can look even at one of the all-time great quarterbacks. And I think his legacy is in large part greatly misunderstood because people probably underrate how good he actually was in some of the runs where the Colts fell short. And I don't think Peyton was ever as great in the playoffs as he was in the regular season. But, you know, the guy was like the regular season GOAT. He put up some really good performances in some years when his team fell short, and he put up a lot of shitty performances in the 2 runs when his team won it all, especially in 2015, of course, when he was a walking skeleton. I know I've made this point many times before, but the numbers really are crazy. This Drake Maye Patriots run is another representation of the fact that football is the ultimate team sport, and the day we all understand that, it will be a wonderful thing. I do not expect that day to be today or anytime soon, but I will continue to push for that. I will say on the other side, though, I mean, the Broncos defense was phenomenal. The pass rush was ferocious. Surtain, dude, like you said, so good. And you hit the nail on the head. Drake Maye has been the best deep passer in football. Even in the first couple games, when he had a lot of ugly moments, he was able to hit on a deep shot or two, and that kind of opened things up for the offense a bit. Not in this one.
Any kind of separation. Like PS2 was like literally suffocating. Suffocating is the only word that I can come up with.
Completely blanketed booty both times they tried him one-on-one deep, and like the Broncos were pretty much playing zone on one half of the field and then just trusting Surtain to clamp on his side of the field. That guy is a special football player. So once again, a defense that did everything in their power to win today. I want to make sure we remember both the Texans and Broncos defenses as the great units that they were this year. Both lived up to the hype, even in losses. Just their offenses were totally inept. And so unfortunately, I guess for defense lovers, the offense being more important narrative does pull through in this conference. Although the Seahawks advance in the NFC, but the Seahawks offense also balled out today.
You know what other narrative we need to pound the drum for?
What?
The Bo Nix is actually freaking sweet, buddy.
Yep, no question. No, they missed Bo today, man. They desperately missed Bo. And if he's out there, like, I'll go out on a limb.
They win the Super Bowl.
He doesn't fumble the ball inside his own 12-yard line, and that's all that the Broncos quarterback had to do to not lose this football game, because the defense was that good and the Patriots offense struggled like that. This was an extremely weird game, Logan. One of the weirder conference championship games I can think of.
I
with the weather,
agree.
A 10-7 game always is going to be crazy weird. I did think the Patriots did some interesting stuff offensively, like especially to compensate for the conditions. In the second half, they used jumbo personnel, so that's a 6th offensive lineman out there, on 42% of their snaps. And I actually thought McDaniels had a couple good moments where he like manufactured something out of nothing. I thought the flea flicker, that was their only good passing play of the entire day. And then
that was the longest play of the day, 31 yards.
I was going to give him props too for that final call to end it, where they went with the naked bootleg on 3rd down and Drake just kept it and picked it up. I thought that was a brilliant call. Turns out that was a Drake Maye call. That was a Drake Maye original. So Drake, props to you. You did do some good stuff with your legs today, but it has been rough. It's not been what I've expected from the guy. So like I said, the fact that he has been bad through 3 games of the playoffs doesn't mean that he cannot be really good against the Seahawks, but it is not getting any easier. And I've just been waiting for him to look like the guy we saw this regular season, for him to look like the guy who was statistically the best quarterback under pressure in the entire NFL, the guy who, again, was my MVP, who did so much to elevate this team. And like, he has looked much more like a second-year quarterback.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's going to be, I think he's the 2nd youngest starting quarterback ever in a Super Bowl. I think
Is
among
Russ
the other,
youngest?
no, it's Dan Marino.
Oh yeah, you're 2 down.
The other youngest, Russ, is a good shout. Big Ben. I think Brock Purdy was also one of the youngest, but Maye is going to be the 2nd youngest QB ever to start in a Super Bowl. And I'm trying to think about it. I'm trying to think about the last the last head coach in their first season with the team to go to the Super Bowl. And I know Vrabel, I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, but I got to think he's got to be in some pretty rare company with that little nugget too. I mean, this Patriots team won, 4 games last year?
Yeah, they won 4 games. That's absolutely an essential shout here. I mean, it's one of the best single season turnarounds in NFL history, like up there for the best. It was a hot take preseason when I picked the Patriots to make the playoffs, and I had them like scraping in as a wild card team. And here they are in the Super Bowl, dude. I have to give the most credit to that defense. By the way, I think George Seifert won the Super Bowl his first year. That was the first one that came to my mind. I think 89 was his
That's
first
a
year.
great shout, Carson. I've got the full list of guys. This is everybody to go there. Gary Kubiak, who ended up
taking over for John Fox.
Correct. Winning against the Panthers. Jim Caldwell taking over for Dungy. Lost to the Saints. Gruden in 2002 after getting traded from Oakland and then beating Oakland. Ironically, the guy he beat in that game, Bill Callahan, that was also his first season as the head coach for Oakland. Seifert won with San Francisco. That's a great shout. Reed Miller with the Denver Broncos in 1977. They lost to the Cowboys. And the final member, Don McCafferty, in Super Bowl V against the Raiders with the Baltimore Colts. So he is now the 9th coach ever in their first season with the team. And he also, they mentioned this on the broadcast, he is going to become the first ever coach to have an opportunity to win a Super Bowl with a team he won a Super Bowl with as a player. So that's
really cool. Yeah. That's really cool. And also, the circumstances are so different, right? Like Seifert, he inherited a dynasty. Jim Caldwell, he inherited a Peyton Manning, right? Kubiak, he inherited a dominant defense and a team that had been in the Super Bowl 2 years prior. Like a vast majority of those guys, they were sort of inheriting a machine that was already operating at a high level, and they maybe added some things. But this is a guy who completely overhauled the team in 1 year. So, Mike, I owe you an apology. I called you in jest a number of times this year a Drake Maye merchant. I've always liked you. I thought you were a good hire. I just thought you were a bit of a Drake Maye merchant when it came to the Coach of the Year conversation, but you have more than proven your value in this playoff run because Drake Maye has become a you merchant and a your defense merchant. And that unit, man, I underestimated them just flat out. Patriots defense was fine, but I thought they were fluffed up by the schedule this year and some of the shitty teams that they faced. And again, they still haven't faced a good offense. They faced like very, very flawed offenses, but they have had them in hell. They have completely obliterated them. Incredible, incredible story in New England. I do want to share 2 more stats just about how weird this game was. First of all, just to speak to how ugly the offense was. It was the first playoff game in which both teams had 210 yards of offense or fewer since 1999. And it was the first playoff game in which both teams had 5 penalty yards or fewer since 1990. Only the second such game in the Super Bowl era. How crazy is that? Like, that's the weird thing about this game. We're going to look back and we're going to think, oh my God, nobody was able to move the ball all game and the weather was so terrible. But also, in terms of penalties, a historically clean game. Because I think the only penalty on the Broncos was the intentional neutral zone infraction on the final drive. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. How about that? Let's look at Denver, Logan. Yeah.
You couldn't see Jack. Yeah. Makes sense.
No, maybe that's what it was. Maybe the refs just couldn't see. Tony kept telling us how hard it was to tell the Patriots white jerseys apart from the snow. And on TV, he was kind of right. What's next for Denver, Logan? Obviously weird to evaluate things when your season ends without your starting quarterback on the field, but what are their priorities this offseason?
Try to keep get Bo healthy. I mean, that's number one. I think just get offensive firepower. I mean, I'm really thinking about like what else this team really needs defensively. I think this team is set. Like, there's obviously some guys that you're going to want to bring back. I think Jaquan McMillan is a big one, but he's a restricted free agent. They should be able to bring him back. John Franklin Myers on the D line is up. They need to bring him back. But
they got some big guys up defensively.
Yeah, I think the big thing, though, is just trying to get another guy, I think, alongside Sutton. Now, they got, unfortunately for Denver, not only did they lose Bo Nix, they lost Troy Franklin earlier in the playoffs. He was not available. They lose somebody else in this game too that puts them down. That had Elijah Moore taking snaps. I would say getting another kind of real difference maker offensively. And I don't really know if it matters what position because they've got like playable guys everywhere at running back, at tight end, at wide receiver. But they need, I say, just take the best player available early on. Like they've got one of the best offensive lines at full strength in football. Like the infrastructure is tremendous. So I would say if there's a game-changing wideout halfback or tight end, go and get that guy and see if that makes a big difference, because there's a lot, I think, on the plate of a guy like Cortland Sutton. And yeah, I think that I don't think Denver needs a ton, man. They're really set up for success. I liked Denver, but I'm shocked. I just didn't expect them to. They were the number 1 seed this year, man. If Bo's healthy,
on the field, they win that game.
I think they win that game for real. I'm impressed with Denver. I really am. I think that they should be back in the playoff hunt next year too.
Yeah, the biggest thing obviously is maintaining that defense year over year is not a given in the NFL, and defenses tend to drop off a little bit quicker than offenses, and the defense is far and away the strength of this team. That being said, a lot of the elite components in terms of that defensive line, in terms of that pass rush, in terms of the secondary, and obviously Surtain being the biggest guy, still in place. Hufanga guy you just brought in. Like you said, there are a few important players they need to re-sign: Singleton, McMillan, John Franklin Myers, Sternad, guys who were good for this team. But I still think they're going to be quite strong on that side of the ball. And you do look at the offense, and that's where they need upgrades. Defense, you're trying to maintain. Offense, you still need to improve. Like, even if Bo Nix were on the field and the Broncos did advance to the Super Bowl, I would have viewed them as considerable underdogs to the Seahawks coming out of the NFC. And that would have been the case for anybody to make it out of the AFC. I just think clearly that conference did not have the level of teams at the top that the NFC did this year. The 2 best teams in the NFL were pretty much far and away in the NFC. It was an underwhelming game that we saw out there today, very underwhelming end to end. But nevertheless, the Broncos were on the verge of making it to the Super Bowl without their starting quarterback in this game, because the defense is that great. They won 14 games this year because the defense is that great, and because they were able to clutch out enough offensively. So I'm with you. I just think it comes down to another weapon out there, and the receiving core wasn't super reliable this year. They had some drops. The offensive line is amazing. Peyton is great. Another receiver, another pass catcher, and then they got to figure out running back. Dobbins hurt again. They'd have to re-sign him. He was really good for them this year. Their run game was noticeably better with him on the field, significantly so. Also, though, the injuries are just such a prevailing concern with him. I don't know if he's the guy who they're going to bank on, or if they'd rather just take a shot at somebody in the 3rd or 4th round of the draft or whatever, because this offensive line is so good. I guess they're a better pass protecting unit than run blocking, but they're pretty damn good at both. So yeah, just a little bit more star power in this offense. So they go from being mediocre to ideally good, a little more consistent on that side of the ball. And then they can definitely rock and roll in this AFC. The Patriots advance. I do think they're going to be big underdogs in the Super Bowl from my perspective, but you never know in one game. You get yourself to the big game, you give yourself a chance. And I was going to make this about the Bills for a second, Logan. I won't do that because I know that I talk about the Bills plenty and the Bills didn't play today. But I will say, watching that game, it hurt my heart just a little bit more because what a missed opportunity. What a missed opportunity. You furrow your brows. Do you not agree? Just feels to me like if the Bills didn't play so far below their standards last week, they should have been representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. But they didn't, because they made a lot of mistakes, and that's life. They made so many mistakes, Logan, that they fired their head coach, as a number of teams did. So before we get to the Super Chats, let's motor through some of this head coaching news around the NFL, because not just the Bills fired their guy, Logan. Your Pittsburgh Steelers, parted ways with the great Mike Tomlin. He stepped down, and they bring in Mike McCarthy. How do you feel about this?
I was really excited for a week about the Steelers. I feel like a balloon that has been deflated. I feel like a bubble that has been burst. I am not excited at all about the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I was excited about the prospect of a rebuild. What this says to me is there is a chasm a massive, massive, massive divide between the front office and Mr. Rooney and the fan base. This hiring makes zero fucking sense to me. I didn't want Mike McCarthy. We got worse Mike Tomlin. Awesome. If we were going to do this, I would have rather we just kept Mike Tomlin. Let's just state the obvious. Like, we got fat, white, watered down Mike Tomlin. I get it. Mike McCarthy was good in Dallas. Cool.
Was he?
What the fuck, man? The Steelers front office is operating like it's 2017. We just got Aaron Rodgers. We just got Jalen Ramsey. We just got DK Metcalf. We signed Mike McCarthy. Oh, yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense to me rationally. My dream scenario for the Steelers, you guys all heard it. Get Brian Flores, get Clint Kubiak, get one of these young guns, get Chris Shula, one of these younger coaches that you could build up with over the next 5 to 10 years, optimistically, right? But what this signals is that the Steelers aren't really interested in a rebuild whatsoever. I was excited at the prospect of offloading some of these larger contracts of older players and cashing them in for future assets, taking a year or two down at the bottom of the AFC, accumulating draft capital. And hopefully, in a dream scenario, in my absolute wildest dreams, we land Arch Manning, and that's our franchise guy. Somebody said this on Twitter. I'll piggyback off this take. The only way Mike McCarthy can redeem himself or prove himself to me as the head coach of the Steelers is if he correctly and like if he develops a quarterback, if it's Will Howard or if we draft somebody, that's the only way. I just don't get it. Mike McCarthy has never knocked my socks off as a coach. In fact, no. I thought he was a inhibitor of success in Green Bay. I thought he was an Aaron Rodgers merchant and lived off that Super Bowl they won against Pittsburgh for a decade. I have just always thought he was a thoroughly mediocre and uninspiring coach. I am once again devoid of hope for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I am tired of this team.
Boy, that was depressing, but I get it. I feel for you, man. It feels like you got a little mirage. You saw an oasis there for a second, but it was fake. It was not real. It was pure fiction because the Steelers had an opportunity to welcome themselves into the 2020s. They had a chance to modernize. They had a chance to go for somebody who was younger and an additive, creative play caller on either side of the ball. And they didn't do that whatsoever. This is like a crazy bad hire, in my opinion. This is a very cliche, old-fashioned organization kind of thing.
Can I tell you what really doesn't make sense to me?
Please.
All of these teams that are looking at head coaches, right?
Yeah.
The Giants already nabbed Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
The Falcons nabbed Stefanski. These are two guys that were in your division that were never going to get hired by you anyway, and every other coach you have interviewed has yet to get nabbed up. Why rush to make this decision? Like, that is the most puzzling aspect of this to me. Why not wait and see where the cards fall? Nobody else in this hiring cycle was even remotely interested in getting Mike McCarthy. Nobody else had even interviewed the guy, and you jump the gun and make this hiring. And it seems like the ultimate reasoning is the fact that Mike McCarthy is from Pittsburgh. I don't give a fuck.
It's a great reason. He's a Yinzer. He's a Yinzer. No, it's terrible. It's terrible. I agree, dude. I did not think that Mike McCarthy was ever going to be a head coach in the NFL again. Like, I agree with you completely. I thought that he was totally an Aaron Rodgers merchant in Green Bay. I thought that he was a Dak and a Kellen Moore and a Micah merchant in Dallas. I just feel like consistently in big games, he's been bad. I think he's been bad with clock management stuff. I don't think he's a good offensive mind in the NFL in 2026. It's pretty baffling to me. I guess it's not baffling because it's kind of a Steelers thing to do, but man, I was hopeful that they had some awareness and that they knew that this had to be a moment to change direction. And they did anything but. Like, I wish that Tomlin was coming back. If this was the direction they were going to take, are you kidding me? Tomlin's way better. And who knows how long a leash they're going to give Mike McCarthy, because I don't think this is going to go well. And I think within a couple years, they should actually have, like, I guess, the ultimate sobering moment of, oh my God, things really need to change.
No,
And I
dude,
don't
if
know if
we
that's
suck
going to
under
happen.
McCarthy, that's a dub. Like,
Yeah.
if we get a high draft pick and can somehow be picking at the top of the draft for a quarterback at the end of next season, that's a success to me. If McCarthy is a fall guy, like, there's just.
But what if you half suck and Rooney's like, I don't know how to fire a guy, and we won 7 games, so that's not that bad. Because I can see that happening. I'm sad to say it. I don't want to rub salt in the wound here.
No, I
But
mean, I think a lot of Steelers Nation is aligned. Like, I think they all feel the exact same way. And I don't know if it's Omar Khan. I don't know if it's Rooney. I don't really know the specific character that's pulling the strings. They are not in tune whatsoever with what the fan base wants. I hope I'm wrong. I hope that McCarthy is brilliant and brings in awesome staff, and I can eat my words next year. Unfortunately, I don't think I am.
They had to go away from the old, fat, balding, bearded white guys and bring in somebody young, slick back hair if they were going to go offensive, or go out there and get a Brian Flores like Jesse Minter got nabbed up, because the Ravens' job is more appealing than the Steelers', I would say. But the Steelers' job is still a pretty good one just because of the organization.
I would be so fired up if we had Flores.
Well, Jesse Minter does go elsewhere within your division, Logan. The Ravens have chosen their next head man. How do you like that move for them?
I like it. I think in retrospect, if they could have chosen, they probably would have promoted Mike McDonald when they lost him, just considering what he's done with Seattle. But Minter's familiar with Baltimore, been around them, like, knows what they do well, knows the identity of this team. And I think the Ravens really got bit bad by the injury bug last year. Like, I really don't know if Harbaugh loses his job, if some really important guys don't get hurt, like if Matabike stays healthy, if Kyle Hamilton stays healthy, if Lamar Jackson isn't out for so long, even though Snoop Huntley did come in and play well and win them some big games. Hell, if Tyler Loop makes a field goal, maybe Harbaugh is still holding on to this job, right? There's a lot of little ripple effects that make you wonder, but he's familiar with Baltimore, fits their identity, is young, and I just like this archetype of coach, man, a guy that can fire you up and either knows his scheme defensively or offensively. I think with the personnel that they have, you would rather have a guy that can elevate the defense back to where Baltimore was when they were at their apex with Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and all them. Obviously, maybe not that great, but near the top of the league again, because you do have a Lamar Jackson, and that's what ultimately makes this job so appealing. One of the best quarterbacks in football, one of the best offensive engines. You expect him, no matter what offensive coordinator they bring in, to bring you a certain level of success. So I like the hire for Baltimore. Frankly, I'm jealous.
I think it's a great hire. I agree with you. Like, I like the great quarterback pairing with a great defensive mind, because you do feel like when Lamar is healthy, when Lamar is himself, you're going to be a great offense. Like, that's just going to take care of itself. That wasn't the case this year, but he was banged up. This was just a really down year for the Ravens in like every way. I agree with you. And you go back to Mike McDonald and what he did for this team. 2023, they were the #1 scoring defense in football. And then they went into the playoffs and they held the Chiefs to 17 points. Like, the defense 100% did their job because they had a great defensive coach. And then this past year, obviously, the defense just totally underperformed. Zach Orr was not the guy to me. The Ravens have had a lot of good offenses with underwhelming play callers even. I obviously hope that they get that hire right for OC, but I didn't like Greg Roman. I didn't really like Monken for them. There is just a Lamar Jackson elevates us quotient that you can bank on. Defensively, you really do need the elevator mind who's going to make the most out of what you can do on that side of the ball and like bring stability and consistency there, because Mike McDonald was the most valuable coach in that organization and they lost him because he wasn't the head guy. Now your defensive guy is the head guy. You got to nail this offensive coordinator hire, but I do feel like it makes them more balanced as an organization. And if Lamar gets back to looking more like his normal self from the last couple years, because this was a down year for him, I think Minter is as good as anyone when it comes to the defensive coaches. I think clearly he and Flores are the top 2 guys. Minter was maybe a little bit of the sexier candidate this year because he got a interview with, I think, every single team that fired their head coach, except the Bills. I don't think even had time to interview him, but you saw how impactful it was to let McDonald walk. This is their chance to kind of make amends for that and do things over and hopefully get things right as Lamar moves into a later stage of his career. He's got plenty of time left, obviously, but also they've had plenty of missed opportunities. It was time for them to make a change. I really, really like the way that they went. A less significant hiring, Logan, just because this team sucks. And last time they fired a head coach, well, no, not last time because they fired their head coach this year, but they let Mike Vrabel walk, and that hasn't gone well for them. The Tennessee Titans, though, bring in Robert Saleh now. How do you like this as a Saleh stan yourself?
I'm a big Saleh guy. I thought he got the short end of the stick with New York, was scapegoated there. I think he's a brilliant defensive mind. I think he maximizes defensive talent. And if the Titans hold on to Jeffrey Simmons, like they at least got a dog down there. I think he is a real elevator and really good schemer. And I still don't know if he's the most important guy. Like they really need an offensive coordinator for Cam Ward. I still think that's the primary focus, number one, like making sure that he's your franchise guy, but he's going to get the most out of that defense. I can tell you that pretty confidently. Saleh's a motivator. He's a guy that fires me up. Like I understand why guys want to play for Robert Saleh, and everybody you talk to that's a player for him just sings his praises. So I like it. Like you said, probably should have never gotten rid of Vrabel. I think he might have gotten a little bit of scapegoated there too, but I really like this hire for Tennessee.
Yeah, I like it too. I think that Saleh is a very good defensive coach, and I do think that overall he elevated the Jets more than he got credit for because they were finding a way to be respectable as a football team with the worst quarterback play in the NFL in the years that he was there. And a lot of people, I think, took for granted that, oh, well, they just have really good defensive talent. And then even last year, 2024, after firing Saleh, the defense dropped off. And the defense this year obviously really struggled. So, like, I think he's shown his value. And then what he did elevating the Niners defense, he's a good football coach. And realistically, for him, he wanted to be a head guy. I don't think any of the top candidates were going to go to Tennessee because it's frankly not a good job. It's probably a job where you're going to struggle to find success. But I do think Cam Ward gives this situation upside that Saleh didn't have in New York, where Saleh was given terrible quarterbacks. And then the Rodgers situation was just such a snafu. And I agree. I thought he got unfairly blamed for it, but that was just a really bad shake for him. I think now he's got to make a good hire for OC. That's absolutely pivotal, but he does have the quarterback on the other side of the ball who I think will progress, and I think he'll take care of the defense well enough. So I like it for the Titans. I also just think like they need a professional. They need a culture guy. Brian Callahan was frankly a dunce. Like he was the worst coach in the NFL, which was just compounding the fact that they already had the worst roster in the NFL, and that's why the Titans have been the worst team in football over the last 2 years. Real quick, before we move on from coaching, an OC hire that to me is noteworthy enough to discuss. Mike McDaniel to the Chargers, and he's locked in now. He was going to peruse around the head coaching market, but he turned down his remaining follow-up interviews to officially commit to be with Jay Herbo in LA. How do you like this?
I think I might take the Chargers to win the Super Bowl next year.
Woo!
I mean, dude, healthy offensive line with Slater and Alt. They get another weapon in here for Mr. Herbert.
Mr. Herbert. Maybe they don't have the worst interior offensive line in the NFL. Maybe that's something.
Dude, I think they crushed it. I think this is a home run. McDaniel gets the right quarterback from that draft class to get paired up with. Like, I've made this take a few times throughout the year, but I am becoming increasingly more coaching staff pilled. And with the Chargers getting McDaniel, they have rocketed up my contenders list.
I mean, we talk about how the Chargers have been maxing out the difficulty for Herbert throughout his career in various ways. This is a guy who should actually make life better for him. Like, props to Harbaugh. This is a really good hire because I was saying after the Chargers lost this year, look, I think Jesse Minter is the best coach in that organization. And Harbaugh has to prove what his brother ultimately could not, which is I am not responsible for calling plays on either side of the ball. So I have to be so great as a program builder, a culture guy, and I have to be so great at hiring coordinators that I don't lose my value when my smart coordinators walk out the door. Jesse Minter is now out the door. So they're going to have to see if they can replicate the defensive results they've had. That's an important hire. But I think offensively, they are going to blossom next year, man. Because like you said, the tackle's coming back with an actual brilliant play caller. Whereas I think Greg Roman was really, really bad for this team. I think that this is going to be the most dynamic passing attack they've had, coming from years of just blah, shitty play calling, to have a brilliant, creative, best use of pre-snap motion probably in the NFL, like a guy who can actually draw dudes open for a top 5 quarterback talent in Herbert. And he shouldn't be hit, 8 times every single game, because hopefully his offensive line will be competent. Yeah, I think it's great on all fronts. I think Herbert could have a career season. I think if the Chargers can maintain close to this defensive level, they should be a top-tier contender in the AFC. And I also think it's perfect for Mike McDaniel to drive his value back up, because we've been saying, we don't know. Is he an OC? Is he just the brilliant play caller who doesn't have the personality to run a team, or is he going to be a head coach? To me, this is a much better alternative to taking a shittier head coaching job, maybe, where if he flames out, people are like, okay, we're done with Mike McDaniel as a head coach. If he wants to get back there, being the offensive coordinator who maxes out Justin Herbert and the Chargers, it's about as good of a sales pitch as you can make. So I'm really, really excited for this on both sides. And I'm not excited about what the Bills are doing. I won't go on because they haven't made a decision, but I do have to mention the names that they've interviewed, Logan, because it's fucking hilarious. So they've talked to Joe Brady, current offensive coordinator, who I don't want them to hire, because I think they could have kept him as OC and kept McDermott if they were going to just stay with the in-house formula. And I would prefer that to promoting Brady. Brian Dable, former Bills offensive coordinator, who I do not want. Anthony Lynn, former Bills offensive coordinator, who I really, really do not want, and cannot imagine anybody else has even taken a half glance at for head coach. Lou Anarumo, who's a good DC, but not the guy I want as the head coach. I just think there are better, younger defensive candidates out there if we're going to go that way. I want Brian Flores. I don't want Chris Shula. I don't want the dinosaur that is Lou Anarumo, with all due respect. And again, then we might as well have kept McDermott if we were going to go with that sort of archetype. Phillip Rivers, who I don't know if you're aware, Logan,
that
was
one fired me.
Quarterback for the Colts.
That one fired me up a little bit.
He hasn't had an NFL coaching job.
I know.
I don't want
it'd
him
be
to be our
the
head
equivalent
coach.
of offering Jeff Saturday a head coaching job.
It feels like a continuation of the movie storyline. It feels like the sequel. They're like, oh man, Big Phil, we already had his quarterback comeback arc. What's next? People love that story. What do we got to do next? Oh, what if he was the coach for Josh Allen and the Bills? No interest in that. Anthony Weaver, the Miami DC, not a needle mover. Grant Udinsky, the Jags OC, Liam Cohen merchant. No, okay, that one's decent. But why haven't we talked to Brian Flores? Maybe we don't want to talk to Kubiak until the playoffs are over. I don't know. But I want Kubiak or I want Flores.
If you guys get one of the retread Buffalo guys, I'm devastated for you, man.
If we hire Anthony Lynn, I can't even imagine what I'll do on this podcast. Something bad, something Sean McDermott maybe would have loved. But Dable, I don't want him, dude. I don't want any of these guys. I don't want a single candidate that we've talked to. So it's really good to see that Terry Pegula has lost his mind. And when asked what led to the decision to fire Sean McDermott, he decided to butt in and say, a bad call. And then he tried to say that Brandon Beane was actually heroic in the whole Keon Coleman debacle, and he took the fall for a pick that he didn't want to make. And it's like, okay, well, if you didn't want to make the pick, don't make the pick. You're the GM. It's your job to assemble the roster. And also, there's a bunch of video of you out there saying, oh, hooray, we love Keon so much. Ooh, Keon ran a slow 40. That's going to make it easier to get him. Brandon Beane, I do think is a little snake. I do think that he has Pagula's ear. I do think that he is totally resistant to criticism, and I do think that he is bad at his job. That's a bad formula. The owner being a public forward-facing freak is a bad formula, and I don't like the process the Bills are going through at all. I like them firing McDermott. I was good with it, even though I thought he had a better season because of his previous failures, but I thought Beane probably should have been gone with him. Beane got promoted. Pagula's being a freak, saying the wrong things. I don't know if Josh Allen should be in every interview. That's just kind of weird to me. I think he should obviously have input, but I also think it's not a player's job. Like, I don't know. What if he overvalues his personal relationships? What if he's like, ooh, I know Brian Daboll. I like Brian Daboll. Or, oh, Joe Brady. He's been my offensive coordinator. I like that guy. Like, I just don't think it's a player's job to be that involved in the decision. So I'm a little concerned. I'm a little concerned with the kind of circus that's going on in Buffalo. And like I said, I like moving on from McDermott because you hold everybody to a high standard, but you got to upgrade. And it's not a guarantee the upgrade from Sean McDermott. There are guys out there who are upgrades. They haven't talked to any of them yet. So there's my Bills talk for the show. Even though the Bills are not in the news, I still found a way to fit them in. Well, they are kind of in the news because it's been weird.
If I had known the Steelers were going to hire Mike McCarthy, I would have begged and pleaded on this show for us to keep Mike D, man. Damn.
Dude, if
we done played ourselves, bro. Steelers fans played themselves.
Dude, I'm wondering if maybe Steelers and Bills fans both, or specifically you and I, because we both felt like our teams did the right things, but the process is not complete just once you part ways with the coach. Then you got to bring in the new coach, and don't like what the Steelers did. Don't love what the Bills are on right now. Let's get to these super chats. Dante, thank you for your generous donation. Go Seahawks. Fuck the Patriots. I love you, Logan.
I love you too, man. Nice. Fuck the Patriots. Go Seahawks.
Drake Maye, though. What about Drake Maye?
No, man, still fuck the Patriots. I got
somebody throws a little money at you, you'll say anything. Bastards. Somebody throws a little money at you, you'll say anything. You think I don't see that? Noted. Kaylee says, what did I tell you? I have never doubted Sam. That is my quarterback until the end of time. I love Sam Darnold. I am crying tears of joy.
Kaylee is known clairvoyant. She's been beating the drum for Sam Darnold about as long as anybody in the Nerd Sesh community. I think longer than anyone in the Nerd Sesh community.
Props to you, Kaylee. Props to Sammy D. I will say I doubted Sam coming into this specific matchup, and I apologize for that because he was incredible. I do want to be clear, though. I am big picture of Sam Darnold believer. I had him as my number 10 quarterback when we ranked all our guys. You know, that's pretty high on Sammy D. So I do think he's very good, but this was the best game he's played probably ever. So just fantastic stuff from him. Dante, I trust JSN with my life. You should, man. Some of the plays that he made.
That one,
how strong the best receivers' hands are is unbelievable, bro. That ball doesn't move like a fraction of an inch in his hands. It's incredible.
That one was nuts. The other one that was nuts too was that I'm trying to remember exactly what route. He might have ran like a little sluggo, like he ran a fake
yes,
like fake cut
and
left.
Then the one when he took the hit over the middle.
Yes,
the like 40-yard pickup. He does
not only to, like the focus and the coordination to go up and get that grab to like he was ready to take that shot too. That's such a difficult grab. I can't say enough good things about JSN, man. I do think he's the best receiver in the game.
Valid and fair, but also I think Puka more than carried his weight in the playoffs. I mean, I think he showed all his value, but JSN end to end this year just been absolutely phenomenal. Matt says lights are too big for Drake at the moment. Pats don't have a shot this season. They have drastically overachieved. But as a Vikings hater, I can take solace knowing Minnesota let a Super Bowl MVP walk for 9. It's brutal.
That's some next level hate, but Pats are in the dance, man. I'm not going to write them off.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever say that a team doesn't have a shot when they're in the Super Bowl. You know, you just never know. It's one game. We can go back to Super Bowl III, Logan. We can talk about Broadway Joe. I think they are some of the more significant Super Bowl underdogs we've seen in a while. In fact, let me think back to like when was a bigger underdog in the Super Bowl?
That's a good shout, man. The
Eagles in 2017. That's got to be it, right?
That would be my guess.
Like, I don't know in terms of the literal lines, but in terms of the vibes in my head, that would be the last shout. And you know what, Logan? They got it done. But the lights have maybe been a little bit bright for Drake. I don't know. He certainly has not played nearly at the level he did in the regular season. But yeah, it's just brutal for the Vikings. Absolutely brutal. Catastrophic decision because 9 is 9. And Sam Darnold is really good. And Sam Darnold's contract is very reasonable. And they could have been in the Super Bowl this year, dude. If they had him, the defense was better than last year. The defense was insane again. Brutal. Oh, we got a Vikings comment from Cooper, Vikings fan here. KOC is the QB guy in the org. He's won a lot in the regular season, but he chose JJ. He's never had a top 10 offense in EPA. Where does Minnesota go from here at quarterback and coach?
I understand. like watching a guy and you haven't played quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if I ever really like listening to the coach on like player decisions. I normally like trust the scouting and the GM department to make plays like that. I never saw it with JJ personally because he just handed the ball off and was so like that Michigan team was just loaded. But I do think KOC is a good coach, but it's not a bad point. I mean, do you hold his feet to the fire for making that decision? Like, I think he's a good offensive coach. I think he's an elevator of talent, but is that like a fireable offense? I don't know. I definitely don't believe in 9. I definitely think you guys need to address that in a big way this offseason. He cannot be the starter. At a bare minimum, I'm at least bringing in there someone to compete with him and challenge him for the starting job in the preseason. Like, he cannot be your only answer coming into next season.
I agree, but who are they going to bring in? I don't know. Like, they really fucked themselves here, man. Yeah. Obviously, the fact that Danny Dimes was also allowed to walk with Darnold in one offseason when, like, with either of those guys,
I don't know.
Obviously, Danny got hurt, but
I don't know if he's a free agent. Am I crazy for, like, shouting Mac Jones out?
I think Mac is a free agent. It's a shout. It's a good shout. I mean, I think he'd flat out win that job. Like, if they don't have this draft pick bias, I think he's just a lot better than JJ. It's a fair question about KOC. I think KOC is good. I mean, he's got 3 pretty good seasons for you in 4 years, a couple years with 13 plus wins. And I think it's fair to say the offenses haven't been upper echelon with him, but I do think he's gotten a lot out of the groups with sub-elite quarterback play. Like, I do think he gets a lot of credit for empowering Darnold to have a career season last year. This year, you could argue that he's been better overall because, I mean, now it's translated to the playoffs for a game. So I think it has. But in terms of the regular season, he was really, really good last year. And so I just don't think he's quite had the personnel at quarterback. But I think this is going to be a very telling year for him because it's impressive to me the Vikings won 9 games with the quarterback situation they had. It's very impressive. They also won 9 games because of the defense, though. Like, the defense carried them. And so now Brian Flores is going to be gone. You still got defensive talent, but I think KOC is going to have to prove his value.
Brian, there's a real chance Brian Flores comes back as this DC.
Really?
Yes. There's traction that Flores is just going to come back to the Vikings. I kind of can't believe it. I think he's brilliant.
He is brilliant. Oh, shout out to, I won't even shout out this network, bro. Literally the worst people in sports media, maybe. I shouldn't say that, but they have a headline that says Brian Flores leaves the Vikings to become Bills head coach. And they know that didn't happen. And they lie all the time in their headlines to get people to click. Google, stop showing that as a top search result. But anyways, that'd be crazy. That'd be a big win for the Vikings. Maybe it will happen. These head coaching jobs, they're getting swooped up. But I think KOC is the guy for now. At quarterback, God help you, because you picked 9 in the first round and you let everybody else walk to prioritize 9, and that's just terrible. And like, if that really was KOC driving that decision, you could probably argue that's a fireable offense because it's damaged your organization so significantly. You had the win now roster. You're right there. You won 14 games and you took a major step back just because you misfired that badly at quarterback. TJ says Drake Maye's ability to just scrape by and do what was necessary to get it done is impressive for a second-year guy. Very Brady-like. Even if Pats lose, this year is such a success. Pats are back. See, this is kind of what I'm talking about.
But yes, you can get him. I was just going to say, I'm not really giving the guy any props for what he's done in these playoffs. I'll talk ad nauseum about what he did during this regular season, but
absolutely,
I'm not gassing this playoff run.
Like, I just think that's an instance of winning bias. You know, I mean, the guy had 65 net passing yards today. They put up 10 points. 7 of those points were handed to them by their defense. If just doing enough is he converts 1 third down with his legs on a naked bootleg, like, he clearly was not in any way a driving factor of any of these wins. It's been the defense in all 3 of them. So I do think, you know, you could argue there's parallels to young Brady there, because young Brady, especially if you're looking like 0-1, not an elite quarterback yet. Definitely carried by an elite defense. But that is not the standard that we hold Drake to, because year 2 Drake was an elite quarterback this year. He just hasn't been in the playoffs. I think it's honestly like underselling his talent and like kind of coddling him if we aren't honest about how far below his level he's been in these 3 playoff games, because they have won really in spite of him and in spite of the offense overall. And that just shouldn't be the case with how talented the guy is. So I will agree to disagree with you a bit there, TJ. Kaylee, we are all taking shots for Sammy. We're getting hammered for Sammy, Logan. Big ups. Big
Let's do
ups.
it. I'm down.
Supernova. How much do you want to bet on what he said, Logan? Rob me blind. Put it all on the line. You can take it from me.
You put Bo Nix on somebody and they win the game. Probably the Broncos.
On the Broncos. That's exactly correct. You put
He's
Bo Nix
right.
on that
I mean,
Broncos
he's
team, they'll win.
right.
He's right. And then Supernova follows up with, is Seattle the Eagles from last year? They're stacked.
They
a lot
are
of similarities,
stacked.
man. A lot of similarities. I mean, truly, truly dominant defense and an offense that does enough. I think there are definitely some similarities in that formula, and two teams that peaking at the right time. Feels like Seattle's peaking at the right time, even though their offense down the stretch of the regular season wasn't sparkling. The 2 playoff games have been super impressive. So I like that comp. Dylan Hale says, as a Bucs fan, I like how the Seahawks won this game. It's a great win. It's a really great win.
Dominant.
Shout out to the Seahawks. Sleepy Joe, is Darnold a top 5 quarterback if he wins the Super Bowl? No.
I don't know about top 5, but I would hear a top
Logan.
10. I would hear a top 10 argument, I think.
Or maybe I just can't hear you.
I think top 10's reasonable.
Sorry, I think I just couldn't hear you there. I think the audio cut out on my end. He wouldn't be top 5. The top 5 is just too good, and I think that's the classic overreacting to a Super Bowl win when like it's mostly going to be about the dominant Seattle defense. But I think top 10, absolutely, there's a case to be made. But once you get into, I mean, really, I would say the top 8, even the top 9, like let's just go through it. Josh Mahomes, Lamar, Burrow, Herbert, Maye, Stafford, Love, Dak. I'm not putting Darnold over any of those guys.
I could put Darnold above Dak.
I'm sure you could, and I'm sure you'd like to, you sick fuck, but there's not an actual good football argument to be made. Dak was phenomenal this year. It's not his fault that his defense allowed 31 points per game or whatever they did. Historically bad defense. Yeah, I couldn't go top 5. I think that's too much winning bias, but this was a phenomenal performance. This was a top 5 level performance from him. I will give him that. Andrew says the AFC game just shows Bo is the GOAT. Love y'all. Appreciate you, Andrew. Showed the value of Bo Nix.
Dude, if you dropped Bo in that game, 1 drive to go, the boner comes up clutch.
Boners rise. Terry, how about a draft that had Baker Mayfield, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson? It's Sam Darnold who gets to the Super Bowl first. I love it. Pretty crazy, man. Pretty crazy because we're talking about him as being like the ultimate redemption arc story. And yeah, he's making it to the big game before those guys. Obviously, I mean, do I need to say it again? Context, right? The guy's got an incredible defense and a great football team around him, but he more than carried his weight today. He was excellent. So it is a very cool story. Andrew is back. Are y'all, LC the Kid, going to talk about McCarthy? We did that. Good question, though. Very good question. TJ says, Maye did play bad this playoffs. Crazy for a sophomore to get here. This feels like the 22 Celtics. They made it by accident. They shouldn't be here, but everything went right. Bills, Ravens, Chiefs, disaster class seasons.
That's not a bad comp. I don't mind that.
Yeah, no, I think that's reasonable. I don't think the Patriots are ready yet. I also didn't think they were going to get here before the playoffs. I didn't think they were going to be in the Super Bowl, but I do agree with you. They've mostly gotten here because the path has opened up quite nicely. They are going to need a much, much better version of Drake if they want to win it all against like a really dominant Seattle team. And the defense is going to have to be great again, because that's going to be a big part of the path. It's like, as much as we're all loving Sammy D right now, they're going to have to rattle him probably if they want to win that football game. Ballin Butler says Drake will get dome superpowers and ball out 500 yards and 5 TDs. I hate to break it to you. They're not playing in a dome. That's the bad news. The good news is he's still Drake Maye, so he could still ball out. The bad news is also he's playing the Seahawks defense. So that sucks. Oh, Ballin Butler, go Patriots, fuck the Seahawks. I love you, Carson. The inverse of the earlier comment. I like this one. This one butters my bread. Andrew's back. Last thing, but glad to catch a live stream for the first time in a bit. Thank you both for using your platforms to speak out for what is right. Thank you very much, Andrew. Appreciate you greatly there. Grizzy, super hype my Chargers got the vape man himself. I guess he's still a cameo for the Raiders, but who wouldn't want to coach our beautiful King Herbert?
It's a great hire. Probably my favorite of this cycle, no lie.
I go to my water, you don't fill the air. What are you, a rookie? You left me hanging there like a fool. Yeah, it's a great hire. I like Minter to the Ravens a lot too. Those are probably the two best hires that we've seen so far. All right, thank you everybody for your generous donations. Logan.
Am I just lagging or your AirPods broke?
Boy, I couldn't hear you there. My AirPods are
dude,
totally
I think your
staggering.
AirPods are broken, bruh.
Exactly. I can't hear what you're saying. So that's that. Oh, there we go. I heard that laugh. Before we get out of here, on a much more serious note, Andrew actually just mentioned this. I do want to talk briefly, if you guys would allow me to, about what is going on with ICE in Minneapolis. I know I just made the whole long video on social media talking about this a couple weeks ago, but now this is the second unambiguous murder of a civilian by ICE agents that we have all seen clear as day, caught on video just in the last 2 weeks, just in the city of Minneapolis. So I think this absolutely bears discussion because I cannot think of a more terrifying thing than a government that will kill innocent civilians in plain sight and then look you in the eyes and tell you it was the right thing to do when the villainous thugs who did it are actually heroes, because that's what's happening. Like, the response from the highest offices in government, the president, the vice president, the official word from the Department of Homeland Security has universally been to flagrantly lie about what's happening, to call the civilians who we all watched get murdered in the streets for no reason, call them terrorists after their deaths at the hands of our government. And so that's why I really feel like we're not talking about politics here. We're talking about human lives in this country and whether or not the government can murder people and lie and get away with it. That's the reality that we're facing right now. And I do think that everything pales in comparison to that. And that is always worthy of having an honest discussion about, because it's a horrifying situation. And it's not just the killing that is so horrifying. The egregious lying also tells you all you need to know about the entire reason ICE exists, because cops lie all the time. We know that. But this sort of organized lying from our president on down, spreading the most extreme, ludicrous lies about the victims of government-backed murder, tells you that the government isn't even interested in trying to do the bad apple routine, right? They're not interested in trying to act as though this is just a couple bad actors. Because if this were outlier behavior, that's what they would do. They could denounce a few individuals and they could still advocate for the organization. They could say they are a couple bad apples, but they don't represent ICE as a whole, right? That's a classic play. But they're doing the complete opposite. Even as we all see exactly what is happening, it is captured on video for us all to see how ruthless these people are, how unjustifiable these killings are. They are bending over backwards to try to protect and even celebrate every last ICE agent, and they're doing that. They're protecting these guys because they're executing their mission as intended. That's what the lying tells you. Trump's government won't and can't denounce any of these individuals because ICE's atrocities are so widespread and they are endemic to the whole operation. They are good with this. This is part of the process to them. ICE is not attempting to solve anything. The idea of immigration they've created and pushed to their base is a boogeyman. In no way are immigrants a problem in this country.
Not at all.
So ICE's real goal, what they're doing, they're trying to terrorize civilians. That's what they're doing. They want to tear apart communities with fear and rip families apart so the Trump government can show its power and they can show their ability to attack the marginalized without consequence. And clearly to them, murdering civilians for no reason is a completely acceptable part of this mission. So that's what I really think their response makes perfectly clear to everybody. Their plan is going as intended. Like, these are not situations they are concerned about. These agents are explicitly there to do harm and to incite terror. They have no interest in reform because there is no reform to be had. This is the reason ICE exists. And I don't know what anybody else could possibly need to see to understand that at this point. And if you're still resistant to that idea, I think you just need to wake up, because this is a moment where we cannot possibly feign ignorance or indifference. The threat here is just way too dire. The situation is way too serious. We have very, very bad people running our country right now. Like, just to say it plainly, they are the problem. Donald Trump is the most dangerous man in American history. I truly believe that. He and his administration are executing their horrific plans on a massive scale right now with complete confidence and disinterest in legality or morality. They believe they can do whatever they want, and what they want is a nightmarish vision for the world. And so that's why we do talk about this stuff. I think it's our responsibility to speak out against them and resist this and get as many people on board in that effort as we possibly can, because Trump is doing a lot to try to make this country a worse place and to jeopardize a lot of people of the world and to basically install himself as a fascist dictator. And there are 350 million of us in this country who absolutely should not tolerate that. So don't forget the collective power we have. Don't forget your ability to use your voice, and do not for a second allow yourself to become numb or ignorant to what is going on here. Obviously, ICE has to be abolished immediately. There is nothing good that is ever going to come of its existence, and there is a whole lot more bad, and there has already been far too much, and all of those responsible for its crimes have to be tried as the criminals they are. This idea that there can be impunity and immunity for these people who are murdering civilians in cold blood is absolutely dystopian. It is literally secret police behavior acting on behalf of a fascist regime to terrorize the people of the country. And that is absolutely nightmarish. So this is happening again. This is another incident that is just so horrific. And I really hope everybody with a platform and with a heart is willing to call for the same, to call for the abolition of ICE, to call for trials against those who are responsible, because all of our voices matter. This is how you can enact change. This is how you can do your part to hold people accountable. A lot of people with the biggest platforms in the world, in the country, did everything they could to endorse Donald Trump and put him back in power, and that worked. And so now it is the responsibility of all of those of us who do not want to allow this country to descend further into this fascist nightmare to do all that we can to put a stop to this. That's my belief. I think we are in a historic moment in a very scary way, and I think we all should do our part to try to steer us to the right side of that. Logan, what would you like to say?
I don't know if my internet's lagging or your AirPods are bugging or what's going on. So I don't know if you guys can hear what I'm saying right now.
I can hear you. I can hear you.
I think I have even more to say if it's cool, Carson, if you guys want to join me on this quick journey. I also tend not to inundate people with political talk, but I agree with you, Carson. I think the events in Minnesota are impossible to ignore and completely apolitical. They murdered 2 innocent American citizens in broad daylight and immediately labeled them domestic terrorists. There is no hearing the other side out. There is no other side. It is the U.S. government versus the American people, and the United States government are actively stripping back our rights by force. This is not an overreaction. This is simply an observation. If you guys want to take a quick civics lesson with me, the Fourth Amendment, unlawful search and seizure, which means you cannot forcibly enter people's homes or vehicles without a judicial warrant. Homeland Security Advisor Stephen Miller has told every ICE agent that they have federal immunity in the conduct of their duties, and anybody who lays a hand on them or tries to stop or obstruct them is committing a felony. That's unconstitutional. They're also coming after weapons, the right of the people to keep and bear arms. Yes, the protester today had a handgun on him. When he was murdered, he was disarmed. And then ICE shoved him to the ground and shot him 10 times while he was trying to protect a woman who had already been shoved to the ground and pepper sprayed. And yet Scott Bessent, Kristi Noem, and Kash Patel, all people who would praise Kyle Rittenhouse for executing his Second Amendment right, are criticizing this guy for bringing a gun to a protest, which I want to reiterate is his right. As an American, I am embarrassed that these people represent us, and I can confidently say I speak for the majority of Americans when I say they don't represent us. I'll also say don't let them brainwash you, because they're all evil and they all have ulterior motives. Like, we have the First Amendment, we have the right to religion, speech, press, assembly, and petition. You have the right to protest, the right to speak your mind. You have the right to holster and open carry a firearm, and nobody has the right to forcefully enter your home without a warrant. Anybody who disagrees with any of those statements is a fascist. These people are playing in our faces right now, and my recommendation to everyone watching is to acquire a firearm and learn how to use it. Real quick, Carson, I want to shout out a professor at Arizona State who you and I had. I didn't like this guy very much, but he taught me the most valuable piece of information I ever learned at ASU. That's Todd Merkow. He told me to follow the money, and that is the one major piece of information I ever retained from Todd. In the big, beautiful bill that Congress passed just earlier this year, it approved $75 billion for ICE over the next 4 years. And I am telling you this because this is just the beginning. This is already taxpayer money that has been allocated and accounted for, and they are a private militia for Trump and the billionaire class. The reason that you don't see any of these MAGA people at these protests is because they're already out there. They're just for hire. They are living out their racist, bigoted, wet dream of going after people of color for no reason and unlawfully assaulting them and killing them. And the most disappointing thing is that the government has routinely shown us repeatedly, over and over again, that they have more money to try and kill us than protect us. They have the money to murder civilians in the street. They have the money to murder and blow up babies, Palestinian babies in the Middle East. But they don't have money for healthcare. They don't have money for the homeless. They don't have money for kids to eat breakfast or lunch at school. And so I would say this is more of a message to all of our currently elected politicians, Republicans and Democrats, both alike. The world is watching you right now, and all of the United States is watching you do nothing. Congress is useless, and they are showing us that this system is broken and needs to be abolished. To everybody, I would say, like Carson said, don't get disheartened. Don't lose hope. We have the power because we are the people. And the only way to defeat this is to band together. We, the people united, are stronger than all of our corrupt government and politicians. Donald Trump, Stephen Miller, Greg Bovino, Kristi Noem, Pam Bondi, Caroline Leavitt, Jonathan Ross, Keith Palacios, they should all go to prison. Fuck ICE, fuck Nazis, fuck Christian and white nationalists, fuck Zionists, and fuck fascism. We have to keep speaking out about this, and we have to be incessant with our voices, our protests. We outnumber them immensely, and we cannot let good protesters like Alex Preddy, Renee Good have given their lives for nothing. Also, rest in peace to Keith Porter, another individual that was wrongfully murdered in his own home by ICE. I'll quote Fred Hampton. You can kill a revolutionary, but you can't kill a revolution. We can defeat this, guys. We have to stay strong, and we cannot lose faith. We will defeat this evil, tyrannical government.
Fucking well said, brother. Yeah, I completely agree with everything you just said, and I would like to say more, but I think that's probably enough. I think we've gotten our message across, and I think we can leave it at that. But it is a horrifying situation, and it is our responsibility to speak out about it. That's all there really is to say. Appreciate you guys. We do have a couple more super chats. I'll read those out real quick. Quick tone change back to football. Ballin Butler says, color me embarrassed about the dome. Shout out to y'all for being great. Appreciate you. Dante, it's still go Seahawks. Fuck the Patriots. Love you still, Logan. Everybody loves Logan. We know it. And Matt says, for everyone, ICE is a Patriot Act creation that treats immigration like terrorism. But as a Minnesotan, it's important to remember ICE are cowards. Stand up for your community. They are afraid of perception. Well said. Well said. It is incredibly, incredibly cowardly to wield the power of complete government backing and use it to terrorize people and kill people and harm people. It's incredibly cowardly on the individual level, but the greatest cowardice and the greatest misjustice of all is coming from the highest levels of government. It is coming from the people whose entire mission is to have this achieved in our cities and in our country. And to say that it is un-American is like the least of the fucking things to say about it. It is the worst thing a government can do. I mean, literally, this is the moment that we're being tested with, right? What will you tolerate in the interest of whatever,
Exactly.
Not wanting to be political or whatever somebody might say, right? The idea that, okay, this is happening somewhere else is a complete non-argument for not being completely appalled and being completely horrified. And I'm not talking to the whatever percentage of people who are completely lost and who are going to try and argue about whatever little fucking details they can conjure up in their imagination and use whatever bullshit government explanation they've been given, which we can all plainly see with our eyes is a complete lie. I'm talking about people who are maybe somewhere more in the middle and who aren't interested in politics inherently, right? Again, this isn't political. This is about a stand that has to be taken against a government that is actively doing harm to the people of this country. Period. Point blank. It's that simple. And Logan, you said it very well. Prioritizing backwards thing after backwards thing over the people who are actually struggling. And I guess that's the point that I will make to wrap it all up. They don't give a fuck about you. They don't give a fuck about any of us. This administration could not make that more abundantly clear with action after action. They are interested only in increasing their own power and flexing that muscle as much as they can and attacking the vulnerable and attacking the marginalized. And that is not something that we can stand for. So that's it.
Real quick, I just wanted to add, they're gonna take as much slack as we give them, and that is why it's important that when ICE invades other states, we all collectively take a stand the way Minnesota is doing. If there's one thing Minnesota has encouraged me, that we do have the power to resist this tyrannical government, and we can stand up to them, and we just can't stop. We got to keep fighting until the fight's done.
And don't let it leave your mind just because there isn't a killing like this every day, because it's always lingering around the corner. And if there isn't a killing, there are families being ripped apart. There are countless unlawful actions going on, malicious actions that are being taken against civilians and people who, I cannot emphasize this enough, are not the fucking problem. It is an imaginary problem that has been concocted to distract.
I want to say something real quick too,
to fulfill that fantasy you're talking about of bigoted people.
It is one of the most ignorant arguments ever made. Anybody that talks about immigrants coming in here and taking people's jobs or taking houses, they're lost. Immigrants put in more, and this is people who maybe didn't come over here legally. Immigrants put more into social services. They put $1 billion into these social services every year. They are so helpful. I mean, and this is a raw statistical thing. It's not all the actual little things that immigrants do in our community. It's a distraction.
Well, and not to mention that, like, the crime rates of undocumented immigrants are far
the
lower
American
than the
citizen
American citizen.
The data proves it. And
Yeah.
That's another thing here at Nerd Sesh we would say is, guys, the numbers aren't going to lie to you. The average American citizen is more likely to commit a crime than an immigrant over here. And 90% of the people that they have detained and taken away, actually, this is my last, I'll get this last point off.
Yeah.
90% of the people that they have detained and put away have not committed any crime. They say they're cleaning up the worst of the worst. No, you're taking in children, in fathers, and people who have just taken their kids to school. Like,
yeah.
You're
raiding restaurants and Walmarts and places of work for regular people
that benefit and are helpful to their community. And these governments, it is a for-profit system designed by the private prisons. The reason that they are taking anyone off the streets is because it's like a quota. If you've ever had a policeman in your state pull you over towards the end of the month, they have a quota to hit. It's the exact same thing with these prisons. They're paid for by the amount of heads that come into their prisons. It doesn't matter if you've actually committed a crime. If you were processed through this facility, they get paid. If you are transferred to another facility and you are processed, that prison gets paid. It is for a bottom dollar, and it's fucking evil, and we're not going to stand for it, guys. If you are feeling this way, you are not alone, and we are going to defeat this. It's not going to be like this forever.
Well said. And it's sadistic is the other part of it. Yes, there's a financial motivation, but there's also the motivation of, hey, we can send a guy who came here from Mexico to South Sudan because we want that headline, because we want that to be another terrifying thing that we've done that inspires fear into people in this country. And it's all fucking horrifying. And that's why I continue to say I don't think it's political. I think advocating for human decency and democracy and not maximizing the suffering of the people. Like, it should just be a no-brainer. And if you truly disagree with that, I think you've lost touch with humanity, just completely, just flat out. And I hope that is not the case for a vast majority of the people that we're talking to. And I hope that we can come together, and I hope that we can move towards solutions on this, because this stuff is not going away unless we do everything in our power to make it go away and hold everybody accountable. And that's not just obviously using our voices to speak out against what the Trump administration is doing, but also to put pressure on Democratic representatives and everybody who can oppose this, who does have the power to do so, who has too often been too lenient. Appeasement doesn't work when you're dealing with a power hungry,
Cory Booker,
aspiring
Hakeem
fascist.
Jeffries, you old motherfuckers, Chuck Schumer. Yeah, let's write another strongly worded letter. A family just got separated, and you motherfuckers want to write letters. Why don't you go impeach somebody? Like,
Yeah.
All you politicians are complicit, and we're watching.
On that note, I've been Carson Brabber.
I love you guys. I have been Logan Camden.
And I love you guys too. And this was Nerd Sesh.